if he had done it and I hadn't, it would be like this thing, like, you don't know what it's like.
This guy sounds like a bad influence, Mary.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and welcome to the Joyspiracy Theory. We've got a great conversation lined up for you here. It's going to be a little bit of a long one, but I sit down and I talk with Mary, and boy, is it worth it. You know, we talk about some things that we've talked about before on the show, a little bit of youth rebellion, some things like that. But she also tells us about this crazy miraculous experience she has, and then somehow after that, delving so deep into Catholicism that I mean, I think this is it's a pretty unique experience. I hope you guys enjoy it. So she brings a lot of insider info from deep in the kind of Catholic mysticism traditions, things like that. But then we also talk about acceptable reasons not to get a dog. So you can look forward to that. Anyways, thanks for everybody who supports the Joyspiracy Theory Patreon page. I'm just so blessed by everybody's support. I know some of you were concerned because that dollar amount does go up and down every month pretty drastically. And, you know, it's okay. It's just people decide that they can't support anymore. Situations change. And also, this podcast, anyways. But thank you to our new Patreon supporters, Karen, Renee, and Tracy. You guys you're just making me feel so good over here. Renee, actually, due to her support of the show, she gets a missive read here on the show, and this is here it is. Dear Roxy, Clarabelle, Shadow, Jinx, and Lucy. And I think those are pets. Even though you peed on the toasters, ate the hamster, premeditatively poop where you know I'm going to walk, and literally take my pillow from me when I get up in the middle of the night. Oh my gosh, I really hope these are pets and not children. You guys are the only ones who don't make fun of me when I start to talk about the hidden truths in this crazy world. Thanks, guys. A little waving emoji. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and assume those are cats or dogs, maybe birds at the biggest stretch. If those are children, we need to have a talk about, I don't know if it's some bad influences they have or your parenting style, but your children should not be peeing in your toaster, eating hamsters, or pooping where they know you're going to walk. Anyways, let's get to the interview. I hope you guys enjoy this. I sure did. And yeah, there we go. All right, buckle in. Let's do this. Okay, here we go. Hello.
Hi there.
Ah, there she is. Mary, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, good. You sound good. We got the whole system going. Systems are a go.
Yeah.
What's your recording setup look like over there? Are you hiding in closets or?
I'm not at my house. I'm house sitting for my sister right now. So
Oh.
I'm in her future baby's bedroom.
Future baby room. Okay. All right. There you go. Well, at least it's getting some use before the future baby arrives.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, what are you grateful for today, Mary?
Well, I'm really grateful that I was able to get on the show. This is pretty exciting.
You did
And
it.
then, yeah, and then also, um, I'm grateful for my husband because he's just really nice and sweet and supportive.
Well,
And
that's a good one. You know, there's a lot of people who got husbands coming on the show recently. I'm going to have to get some of the husbands on the show to talk about the ladies.
yeah, because you've just had a lot of girls on the show.
I know. When I started doing the show again, it was all dudes, and I'm like, I got to get some ladies on the show, and now it's all ladies. Hey, I'm not complaining though.
He's here. He's downstairs. He could come hang out too.
Okay, maybe we'll get him on the show here a little bit later. But first, it's about you, Mary.
All right. Yeah. I thought like if he was in the room while I was talking, because he's going to be in a lot of what I say,
Uh-huh.
that then it might be kind of awkward, and I feel like strained about what I say.
Yeah,
I
whatever
feel
works. This is a safe space. We don't need no prying ears of the hubbies listening in so we can talk about them. I'll
My
just
sister's cat is in the room and he's listening intently.
Well, that's good. It's part of the experience. It's in order to be on or listen to the Joyspiracy Theory, you need some sort of non-human ears listening as well, or else none of it makes sense.
I mean, it works perfectly because I don't have a cat at home, so I came here, and I actually don't have internet at home, so I'm here, and so it all worked out.
Well, I'm really glad you did. It's really hard to do this show without internet and without a cat.
Yeah.
So, tell me, how old are you? I don't want this to sound... I mean this in all respect, but you sound younger. You sound like maybe a little bit of the younger crowd.
I'm the same age as you, I think. Well, I'm 1 year younger than you.
You're 87.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you sound like a gray 87. Okay, look, we got all these I guess by the time this episode comes out, we got all these young married ladies on the show. This is it. This is interesting. All you young ladies getting married. But maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just late.
Yeah, 27's not that young.
When did you get married?
I was 25,
Okay,
so I guess
all right.
that is kind of young for nowadays, but
Yeah, just for nowadays.
for classic times, that's
Yeah,
actually kind of normal.
you should have a few grandchildren by, if you're in biblical times.
Right. Yeah, if I was a real biblical Mary,
Yeah, there you go.
they were like 13.
Yeah. Well, where are you? I've been having all these Texas folks on recently. Are you another Texan? Do we got another Texan in the house?
Yes, I am in Texas. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, I totally believed you.
No, I'm in Chicago temporarily for right now.
Okay, just passing through. You're just a pilgrim.
Yeah, I mean, I live here in Chicago, but I don't feel like I'm definitely not from Chicago. I've been here for 2 years.
Okay.
And I'm not going to stay that much longer, but...
All right, you're just moving around. You're a wandering soul. I get it. You got more important things to do outside of Chicago? Hey, nobody's going to complain. So, that's, what's been happening recently, ever since the Jen episode, Jen has sort of been connecting with everybody, and you know Jen as well, don't you?
Yeah, I commented, I found her on Facebook because I saw, like, the show was posted that she was on.
Yeah.
And I just said, oh, that was such a great show. And then she started commenting back, and we were chit-chatting, and we were messaging each other. I talked to her a lot, and I sent her a package already.
You sent her a package? What packages are you sending?
Well, I'm part of like a very small group of people that we're called Signalist Storm. We do like art kind of stuff. We make just like t-shirts and buttons.
That's cool. I think I've seen some of that stuff floating around the Facebook.
Yeah, you might have. And
so you're one of those artsy types.
Yeah, you could say that, I guess.
I mean, you do artsy stuff with a small group of people, so there has to be some sort of artsy type in there. Are you one of those artsy types?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to finish out my last semester at an art school, and that's why I'm here in Chicago.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so when I say, are you an artsy type, and you go, maybe a little, you're supposed to say, yes, absolutely, 100%.
I mean, yes, well, I love art, but I've never referred to myself as the artsy type, but yeah. I guess, yeah.
I don't think anybody refers to themselves as the artsy type, now that I think about it.
Yeah, that would be kind of... I'm the ultimate artist, actually.
Yeah. Oh.
If I just came to the show saying that, you'd be like,
I am the artsy type. Well, that's very cool. Have you always been an artsy person? Okay, I don't mean that as a derogatory term. I know artsy type or artsy fartsy.
Artsy fartsy.
There are two terms that I gotta say I've heard in my own life, directed at me as well. Doesn't feel good, but so you are a creative, as they would say.
Yes, I would say yes, but
I hope so. You're in art school.
yeah, I mean, okay, here's my thing is I always loved art and I was horrible at sports, that's for sure. And
As most artsy fartsies are.
I was in theater in high school and I wanted to do acting for a while, and then I realized I didn't really want to do that.
Okay. And so
But
that only qualifies you as kind of artsy fartsy?
and then I like to draw and all that, but I kind of gave it up in high school, and I always wanted to be a painter, but I never did it.
Oh, well,
And
we got to talk about that.
yeah, and then I never did it. And then when I met my husband when I was 18, he was like an absolute through and through artsy type. So he kind of he encouraged me to start trying to draw and paint, even though it's been so many years. And I remember my mom being like, "You don't draw? What are you talking about?" Like, but I always wanted to get back into it.
Yeah.
But I sort of thought, well, it's been so many years that I haven't really done that stuff since I was younger, and I
Okay.
just thought you had to like automatically be good by the time you're a teenager. So
Right.
I just but he's all about outsider artists and like untrained artists. So he really encouraged me to just try it, and he could see that I had like creative potential. So he really helped me come out of that shell to get into it, and now I really love doing art stuff, and I feel like I have to do it.
Well, yeah, you're in art school. You're full blown now.
Yeah.
So that's
And
interesting. You said your mom. Now I kind of want to go back a little bit. You said your mom, kind of was like, "What? You don't do that kind of stuff." So as a kid, were you creative? Was that kind of your dream? Were you kind of a dreamy kid? What was your childhood like?
yeah, I mean, I would say I was, but I'm the youngest of five girls. I have four older sisters, and so I think a lot of stuff just I don't know if my parents were like really looking that intently, or well, I don't want to sound like they're they're really good parents,
Yeah, well,
but
five kids that got a lot going on. What do you
yeah,
expect?
I had a lot going on, and my mom was going back to school for nursing and all that,
Uh
and
huh.
so I don't know where I'm going with this, but
Well,
well,
okay. Let me say one thing. I kind of hear something fidgeting and creaking over there. So if you're bouncing around,
oh
you
yeah,
gotta cut it out.
okay.
Okay, so yeah, just so you grew up with five brothers and sisters. That's a lot. That's more than I had. That's more than I think most people have. So you kind of felt like your mom maybe wasn't necessarily putting in extra attention into developing your artistic side as a child.
Well, I mean, maybe that's not fair to say because she helped me go to like acting stuff. Like I got into that for a little while, but it was kind of a desperate attempt of trying to do something creative. But I thought like, oh, acting that'll be easy because I haven't been doing any music stuff or like painting. So if I act, I could just open a script and start doing that right away. It was kind of like
Yeah.
lazy
No,
trying
I.
to be.
Well, that's the great thing about acting is like you're just pretending to do something else. You're just pretending to be someone else. We can all pretend.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I thought. But I mean, in reality, I was probably horrible. I don't think I would be a good actress in real life.
Yeah, so the acting didn't work out. Nobody that didn't really take.
No, I mean, I was in the school plays and musicals and stuff like that, but I just realized, I mean, you have to be really dedicated and you have to be in lines, lining up for auditions all the time, like getting rejected, and I mean, I really wasn't like that
Hey,
die hard.
stop moving stuff around over there.
Oh yeah, I fidget a lot. Okay, I'll try not
I
to.
noticed. That's okay. It's totally okay. But it is definitely on the recording. Um So okay, so yeah, I get it. Acting, it's a lot of work. What were you like? What were you gonna do? You weren't really necessarily pursuing art stuff as a career for a while. What did you like actually want to be as a kid, or what were you planning on being?
I really didn't know. I like it was either the I kind of like psychology or um I always wanted to be like a I don't know, honestly. I always wanted to have my own like kind of show. I know it sounds weird, but at this point
What?
like
Wanting to have your own show sounds weird.
right, cuz you have a show. But like I'm on the show and I don't sound like someone that would be on a show or would have a show, but
Why do you think
the
that?
well, not like a podcast show, but more like a variety show
You're trying
or
to
like
get
a
into that vaudeville scene.
I was and I really liked like the old Saturday Night Lives, not the nowadays ones, but like the older ones.
Uh-huh.
Um
So I'm hearing some I'm hearing like you really kind of felt called to the spotlight, kind of felt like you wanted to be in show business, but something was holding you back.
yeah, it was kind of just a weird habit I had as a child that everything I did, and I'm not exaggerating, almost everything I did when I was by myself, I would start a show. Like I would pretend I had an audience and have a show of whatever I was doing. Like if I was making food, it would be a cooking show. If I was doing like arts and crafts, it was like a craft show. And I would do that all the time for everything I did. My sisters would walk by and be like, "Oh my gosh, you're so weird." But it was just a known thing that I did. And then sometimes when they'd have friends over, we'd put on shows for their friends and like for my parents and stuff.
Hey, I did the same kind of stuff. I totally get it. I would do radio shows. I had an old tape recorder, and
Hmm.
me and my friends would just sit around this tape recorder and do a radio show. We'd do it for like 2 hours, and we
Yeah,
just
I did
nobody ever
that
listened to
too.
it.
I did a radio show too, but it was like a cooking comedy show. I would do like either a comedy show or I would do like really serious like psychology tapes. And like it was one or the other. It was either like comedy or really serious tapes or like singing songs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that hey, I guess so. Hey, you're right there. You're a born show person. You got it. You want it. You got it. You need it. Why haven't you started a show yet?
Well, at this point, like I don't know. I'm also really like I'm kind of introverted. I haven't really developed my social skills that well, so I'm not good at talking to people or
Yeah.
like talking out loud. So I don't know. It was kind of just something I kept to myself. But honestly, I found my outlet at this point, which is more visual art, because I'm not actually good at talking at all,
Well,
but I
your
love
your
like
your English is impeccable. I'll give you that.
well, thank you. It's my third language.
No, it's not.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I
I only speak I only speak English.
okay.
Unfortunately,
I gotta be careful. See, you got jokes. Girls got jokes. Everybody. Oh, we don't have an audience here. Whoops. Um,
I should have got like
a
a
laugh
studio
track.
audience to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
that-
edit it in later.
just to fill in all the awkward silences that I'm gonna provide.
Girl, this show is born on awkward silences. That's what this whole thing is about.
Just let the people hear the
Yeah,
silence.
just rest, sit in the
Breathe
silence.
it.
Just let it happen. I'll say this as somebody who also obviously kind of has a draw towards the just I guess doing a show, obviously. But just for me, it's mostly talking. But I've done some on-camera stuff. I've done some live stuff. Hosted a lot of events. Done some performing, and I gotta say, it's real fun for me. But it's real not fun for everybody else. I just love on-stage silence. Just being completely silent, staring at the audience. It's a good time. You should try it out sometime.
I can see that being fun.
Yeah, it's
So it's like an interpretive like.
it's uncomfortable, even just in between sentences, just a little bit too much silence where everybody's like, why, what, I don't get. And then, oh my gosh, my cat has now crawled completely in between. She's wrapped herself up in the cords of my microphone. So don't be too loud because she will frighten and she will take off and tear this whole infrastructure down.
Okay.
Okay.
A whisper.
Yes, the rest of the show is in whispers.
It'll be whispers so she's comfortable.
Yes, little kitten. Okay, so well, I find that interesting, especially as children. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about your graphic art stuff, but tell me a little bit about what you got going on in the family. Like, are you the youngest of your brothers and sisters?
Yeah. No brothers, no brothers.
Okay, all sisters.
Yeah, my mom.
You get that a lot. A lot of the younger kids, they're the ones who do all the. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, cat. Stop it! Get out of here. They're the ones doing the shows, doing the weird radio shows on the tape recorder in the den after dinner.
Yeah, because they're like, no one will hang out with me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just quietly observe everyone, and then I'll share my thoughts.
Then I will report it.
One time I made my parents like a marriage counseling tape when I was and I was gonna give it to them as a Christmas present. I was like, because I would hear them. Well, not that they didn't fight all the time, but when I
made your parents a marriage counseling tape.
No,
How old were you?
I think I was probably in like 4th grade or something, and I remember recording it, but I don't know where it went, and I never gave it to them because I was like, maybe that would be a slap in the face if I gave it, because I was thinking it would be a Christmas present.
Yeah, no, your instincts were correct. You absolutely should not have given it to them, but I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know why. My dad kind of had me thinking I was a child psychologist, but he was just joking about it.
Yeah,
but
stop fidgeting.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm going to go on a lot of random little tangents, so...
Yeah, no, tangents are awesome. Just don't fidget. I will reach through this computer and tie your hands down.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I need like a straight jacket or something because I always fidget when I talk, so I'm going to like... have to hold on to something.
Sounds like it. And what is that noise? Do you have an aircraft starting up in your room?
Oh, I think that's just the fan on the laptop. It's a really old laptop. Maybe I can move it.
Mary, this is extraordinary.
Is it really loud? Is it better now?
No, it sounds like you're inside of the CERN reactor.
Oh my goodness.
It sounds like the background noise on Star Trek. We could just pretend that it's this background noise on Star Trek.
Yeah, maybe it sounds kind of cool.
Kind of, except for it's really hard to hear you now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Trying here.
Woo! We are going on an audio adventure, everybody.
I think it's going to be going for a little while. How about now?
No, it's actually kind of tripping me out. It kind of sounds like one of those tracks you put on before you go to bed to help you get into REM sleep or for like lucid dreaming or something like that.
I'm starting to think that the microphone I'm using isn't actually where you're hearing me from.
Oop.
Wait, tell me if you hear a tap.
No, the fan stopped though, so that's nice.
Do you hear this?
No.
Oh, okay. So I've been holding this little microphone thing, like on the earbud.
Yeah.
I've been holding that up the whole time and talking into it, but that's not even doing anything.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to tell you before you hung up the first time. I was trying to tell you how to change your microphone settings.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. That's okay. But if it's an old laptop, it won't be able to do headphones and microphone in the same jack. So you're gonna have to choose.
Wait, can we hang up and can you edit it out?
Edit what out?
Should we try to fix this or no?
No, we're fine. We'll just keep going. We'll just hope that fan doesn't kick back in. You sound fine.
Oh, dang. Okay. All right. We'll just
Okay.
keep going.
Okay, sounds good. So tell me a little bit about your family situation. You made your parents a marriage counseling tape. Did you have a reason for that, or was that just the whims of fancy?
Oh, I just like to like get involved with when people were fighting. I would mediate their fights a lot
Yeah.
because not that they were like, anything crazy, but just normal verbal fighting. And when I was a kid, I would understand that they weren't listening to each other when they would fight, and like they wouldn't listen to anything the other one said, but I knew that they would listen to me, so I like got in the middle of it, and I would usually like relay what each of them were saying, and they would hear me talk, but they wouldn't hear each other.
Yeah, you were parental translating.
Yeah, I was like mediating their fights sometimes, and it helped a little bit.
Hey, well that's good. Yeah, so you're kind of a peacekeeper in the family a little bit that way.
A
Oh,
little bit.
yeah. Well,
But I like that for my sisters. I was kind of like, I tried to be like the stereotype younger sibling that would make them mad about stuff.
yeah.
It's just for my parents.
Well, do you think that had something to do with your putting on a show? Because a lot of times when a child is takes on that peacemaker role, as long as you keep everybody happy, as long as you keep everybody entertained, then nobody has time to fight about anything.
I don't know. I don't know. I just like feel very close to both of my parents, so like, I just didn't like that they would fight all the time.
All right. Well, that's cool. Well, good. Sounds like you're a valuable member of society. Are your parents still together?
Yes, they are. So we grew up Catholic. My parents are still very Catholic. And so, yeah, divorce is really frowned upon.
Oh. Oh, is that why they're still married?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I
Well,
don't mean to laugh. But I am curious.
they're married. I mean, they're actually doing really well. Like now, and now that they're, years later, they're
Yeah.
doing really well. But there was never anything extreme. Just like people living together that make each
Yeah.
other mad.
Yeah,
You know,
just trying to cohabitate with another human being is difficult enough.
yeah. I mean, I think like a lot of divorces, it's not necessarily a big scandal that happened. It might just be because, they got frustrated and tired of each other, so they got a divorce. I
Right.
mean, I'm just guessing that that's probably the case for a lot of divorces.
Yeah, and
And
they didn't have a little Mary to be around and translate each other's arguments for
oh yeah, yep, it was me. I saved the day. No, I mean, like it's just it wasn't even an option for them because they're Catholic, and it would be really frowned upon.
Right. Yeah. 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 All right. Well, hey, whatever gets you there.
Yeah.
So,
I
so you grew up Catholic. Your parents are still Catholic. Are all your sisters Catholic? Are you Catholic?
No, I'm not Catholic.
Okay.
I have a big story behind why I'm not Catholic.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly get to that one. But how
Yeah.
about your sisters? Everybody still pretty much Catholic or what?
Well, they are like they don't really care. It seems like I think they just kind of go to Catholic mass on like holidays, and like I think maybe one of my sisters goes a little more, but I mean, if you're really going to be a Catholic, you have to observe the holy day. You have to do a lot of things that they don't really even consider. So
Sure, sure.
they just
Yeah,
don't take it seriously.
yeah, I don't know much about what it's like to be a Catholic, no matter how much fringe research I do on the Holy Roman Catholic Church. The day-to-day life of a Catholic is totally something else. So you grew up, parents still together, making marriage counseling tapes. Little showbiz girl trying to has dreams of what? You wanted to be on television?
I don't
You
know.
want to do like a talk show, like a
Well, like in middle school, I thought the ultimate would have been to be on Saturday Night Live,
yeah,
but I, you know,
yeah. But you never
I,
really kind of pursued that in a serious manner.
no, I mean I got over that like in middle school.
You got over it the same time you got into it.
Well, no, like it was my big thing in middle school. I was all about it. Like I was always doing impersonations, and in middle school people would just walk up to me and be like, "Oh, do the coffee talk," which I used to be a lot better at it, so don't ask me.
Oh
I don't,
boy,
they'd be like,
somebody's
do the coffee talk thing, or like do this, and I love doing all the voices, and that was kind of just like my way of being around
of
people.
connecting. It was kind of your way of socializing.
Yeah, like I kind of hide it behind it because
Yeah.
I have really bad social skills. So, I mean, like I'm nice to people, nice enough, but I just don't. I don't really know how to connect with people very well. So
Okay. Well,
I was
let's talk
use
about
that.
that. It's interesting. For somebody who claims to not have very good social skills, you seem to be pretty self-aware, which is social skill number one.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm very self-aware, like very self-conscious about stuff, but I don't know. I can't describe it. Like sometimes when people are talking to me, if I'm not comfortable with them, like I can analyze the whole situation really well, but if I'm like trying to talk to them, I'll just like try to get out of the conversation as fast as I can.
Yeah.
But then certain people, if I'm comfortable, I like really open up, and sometimes too much. So I kind of like it's like it's really off balance. It's like I either have to overshare or like I have nothing. I don't want to talk to the person. But I think at this point I'm like a little bit better because I'm an older person now,
Yeah.
kind of an adult. So
Yeah, so you've kind of been living with a little bit of awkwardness. And hey, we all got a little bit of our own awkwardness going on all over the place. Even the coolest people are super self conscious about things. Heck, I was a real weird kid in middle school, so I think you're among good company. But hey, you got a husband. That's a good that's a good catch.
yeah, yeah, it is. He was also like, well, I mean, he's good at talking to people, but he's like a loner too because he does like the art stuff a lot. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
used to being alone, just doing his thing.
yeah. Okay. All right. How did you guys meet?
So we met in a alleyway.
Of course. I don't know why I would have thought
Dark
anything
alley at
else.
night. And I'm not even kidding, we really did. But it wasn't just like random like that, how I made it sound. We met through some friends because I worked at the college, the community college, and I had some friends that I worked with, and they were friends with him.
And then they said, "Hey, we know this guy is going to be perfect for you. Meet him in
No,
this dark alleyway."
no. It wasn't like a setup. It was like a bunch of friends. Like I just was friends with everybody.
So just
But I
a
still have
bunch of
to.
a bunch of Riley artsy kids meeting in a dark alleyway. Come on, paint
Yeah.
me the picture.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So, um, it was like I just moved out of the house, and I was living in these like kind of dorms at the community college, which sounds weird, but anyway, my friends just like my friends asked me if I wanted to come hang out, so I did, and then um, yeah, there was just a bunch of people sitting in an alleyway, and it was like in a town where it's not very busy, so there weren't really cars.
Yeah, okay. I swear to you, you fidget one more time.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm not gonna do it again.
Okay. I doubt it. So so you met your husband in a dark alleyway. That's a really wonderful and cute meeting story. Cute meet, I think is what the kids are calling that.
Cute meat.
I think.
Sounds.
I don't know. I could be totally wrong.
It's gonna be a new hashtag or something.
I think, yeah, no, I'm pretty out of touch with the youngsters nowadays, but I think cute meat is a thing. Uh,
Oh,
I
I hope
think
not.
I know. That's a
I don't
sign.
think it's bad.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's horrible. Uh, oy, oy. Okay, so you're growing up. You got Catholic parents. Parents still together, but overall, I mean, how would you describe your childhood? Is it overall happy or just overall kind of awkward?
No, I would say overall happy. When I think of childhood, I think of good thoughts.
Good.
Like weekends at your grandma's house, or I don't know, family vacations, or like fam. My favorite thing was the family camping trips.
Oh
That was
yeah.
I loved camping. Loved it was fun hanging out with my sisters, even though like sometimes they were really mean or whatever. But we all love each other.
Hey, yeah, that's how family works. That's how it
And,
works.
and what's fun about having all girls is like we'd have dance parties a lot.
Just sister dance parties.
Yeah. And so like to this day, if we're all at the same wedding, we kind of like take over.
The sister squad takes over the dance floor.
Yeah.
Do you have a
Yeah.
signature dance move?
Um, well, we make fun of this one move that my mom does because my mom's a really bad dancer.
Oh no.
So we'll do like this one. I mean, I can't show you, but
Just
she's a really bad dancer.
just paint me a word picture of what this awesome mom dance is like.
Okay, like stiff fists, like, like, like make some like really stiff fists,
Okay, I'm doing
and
it.
then like have them kind of raise them above your head.
Doing it. All right.
Okay, and like kind of move around in circles, and then like take it back behind your back.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, that's bad.
All while biting your bottom lip.
Yeah, I feel like an idiot. This is sorry, mom. This is not a cool dance. I could see it would be fun having five sisters jumping around a dance floor doing it, though. People might actually call the cops on you. You should probably limit that.
Oh yeah, I mean like we have like real dance moves too, but
Okay. All right.
we're we take it seriously.
But so now I'm curious. So you said you're not Catholic. I'm assuming that means you're some sort of Protestant.
Well, I don't say I'm Protestant,
Yeah,
I
but
don't,
you're not Catholic.
but I'm not Catholic.
Do you protest the
I'd say I'm a Bible believing Christian. I don't
you
know.
you protest the deification of the Pope?
Oh yeah.
I believe is what the original Protestant Reformation was about.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I even think they didn't go far enough with some of it,
Ooh,
but overall, yeah.
we
But
can
I
get
don't.
real theological here. But so how did you kind of move away from the Catholicism of your family? I mean, that's a pretty, that's traditionally pretty straightforward genealogical tradition that gets passed
Yeah.
down.
Oh yeah. Okay. So my mom was a Protestant,
Uh-huh.
and my dad has been Catholic his whole life. He's 100% Italian American, so his whole family came from Italy, and they've all been Catholic through his whole lineage for I don't know how long, but
Okay.
um,
So
so he's very
how did you
Catholic.
make the switch? What caused that?
Well, it's kind of a story. I kind of have to like go into like the whole thing.
All right, you do it.
Okay, so I have to like kind of go through my whole testimony to like explain that because
Oh,
it's
let's do it. Start from the beginning, baby. Let's do this.
okay. All right. So when I was like, let's say about 10 or 11, so when people say they're Catholic, usually they mean they're just like kind of mainstream, like modern day Catholics, usually
Mm-hmm.
in America. And but then there's like other kinds of Catholic, like you could be a traditionalist Catholic where you only believe in the Latin Mass.
Okay.
Like you believe like the mass should be said in the in the traditional language
Yeah.
that the mass was spoken in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we used to just go to like modern Catholic churches as a family, but when I was around like 10 or 11, my dad started like getting weirded out by stuff going on in the churches,
Yeah.
like just like weird like prayer things that people were doing at some of the churches, like howling and like weird stuff.
At Catholic churches?
Yeah, yeah, because it was very like we were going to a pretty liberal like ecumenical style Catholic.
They're getting all Pentecostal up in there?
Yeah, like they had this weird thing called empowerment nights, and it was after mass was over, they would invite everyone to like stay after, and we all thought it was really cool, so we'd stay after, and like they'd turn all the lights off and put candles, and so I just thought it was cool because like candles and stuff,
Yeah.
and anyway they'd have everybody like pray over each other, and like they pick someone at a time and everyone put their hands on them, but then there'd be all these people that would start howling and like acting really strange, like shaking and stuff.
Yeah, you got some Quakers in there. You got some secret agent Pentecostals, charismatic Quakers.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody did it, but like these certain people that were always there did it, and it was really weird. We'd all kind of like it definitely weirded us all out, but we kind of just like not everyone did it, so we'd
Sure,
still go.
yeah. If you're in a Catholic church and people start getting all whirly bird on you, hey, I get it.
Yeah, but like so our family wanted to still go though, but my dad just got really weirded out, and he started to like kind of question the whole church.
Uh huh.
And then he started to like intensely start researching stuff, and he decided like progressively over the years got more and more traditional Catholic, like where he only would go to the Latin mass where ladies have there's a dress code, ladies have to wear a dress that's below their knees, and they have to wear a head covering, and everything's in Latin. There's no English spoken except for the homily, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you just have to like read through this book for the translation so you know what is even being said. And he started to go to that, but my mom didn't want to go, and so we just all kept going to just like modern churches, which is they call it the Novus Ordo,
Yeah.
like the new order.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if you know like Vatican II.
Oh yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. So
Why?
he,
Just for those listeners who may not know, though, why don't you give a brief description?
it's been a while since I really like researched this stuff, but so Vatican II, they made some. I'm trying to think of what's the really dividing. Can you say
Well,
offhand what it's about?
the way I understand it, basically was that they just wanted to make it more accessible and friendly, and so there were some core theology, maybe new interpretations and
Yeah,
things like
okay.
that.
All right, it's kind of coming back. It's been like a couple years since I've really been in this world and like thought about it. So,
Sure.
um, anyway, yeah. So I guess the big thing with Vatican II is that they said the mass does not need to be spoken in Latin, and like the big deal about the mass being spoken in Latin is that they believe the Eucharist is the true body of Christ.
Yeah.
So they think that you have to say these certain words in the actual language so that it's not lost in the translation, and that way it'll be consecrated into the actual body of Christ. But if you don't do that,
Say the
then
magic words, basically.
yeah, exactly. If you don't do it just right, it might like my dad would never say like it's not the body of Christ in the Novus Ordo, but he would never like denounce that, but he is skeptical of it.
Right.
And, and there's certain things like okay, if you really thought that was actually Jesus, there's certain things like how they took special precaution to make sure it didn't fall on the ground. Like they'd have a special plate. They wouldn't put it in your hand. You had to take it on the tongue, and like nobody could touch it except for the priest. Things like that were the old way, and then they kind of changed that so that anyone could just grab it and like it could fall on the ground, and crumbs could fall, and then people would be stepping, like if a crumb fell, then that you would have to say, well, that's the whole body of Christ, and someone could just go step on it.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean? So
Sure,
like,
sure. Yeah, it's just a lot more orthodox, a lot more traditional, a lot more ceremonious, a lot more the high church type of
yeah,
feel.
high mass, like taking every little thing sacred, making sure that the Eucharist is well protected, whereas the Novus Ordo is just trying to make it more like simplified and easy and accessible.
Right.
And so yeah, my dad was like very against that, and he started to realize and like even get more strict than just going to Latin mass. He'd be like, no, I only want, because some churches do both, and then he was even like, no, I only want to go to a church that only does this.
Okay.
And so he got really intense about it, and at the same time, he really got into the prophecies of Fatima, Our Lady of Fatima.
Oh yeah. She just had a
Yeah,
an
100,
anniversary.
yep, 100-year anniversary. And yeah, because I saw my dad that day, and he was like, this is the 100 years.
That's
And
funny.
yeah, and so that's a whole thing. If you don't know anything about Our Lady of Fatima, you can look it up. But it's basically, in a nutshell, it's like that this mysterious woman, supposedly from heaven, came down to these little shepherd children.
Yeah, these
In,
two little girls.
or it was two girls and a boy,
Yeah.
Lucy, Jacinta, and Francisco. And this was in Portugal, Spain, in the year like 1917, I believe.
Yeah.
And so like she made, so this woman, they call her Our Lady of Fatima, but she said she's from heaven, but like she wouldn't reveal who she was for months, and it was kind of shady. And she ended up saying like, pray the rosary every day. It's the world's last chance for peace and stuff like that. And
Right.
then she said like, they have to consecrate the Pope has to consecrate Russia to my Immaculate Heart as like a public thing, and all the cardinals have to be present for this big ceremony. And
Right.
so, and if you do that, there'll be a big period of peace in the world peace, and blah blah blah. And like you have to offer sacrifices to her, and like she's our last chance for peace in the world and unity. Okay, so anyway, that was a big thing, and he got really into that. And it kind of like mimics a lot of biblical prophecy in ways, but not exactly.
Yeah. But so he gets super orthodox. He's gets super interested in one of the more recent canonized miracles
Yeah,
in the Catholic Church, and so he's like going super Catholic.
yeah. And then he also is like into getting into like certain conspiracy stuff. Like he was listening to Alex Jones, even though Alex Jones isn't Catholic, but he got really into like listening to stuff like that, and he just got really intense like into these topics.
Uh-huh.
Um, and none of my sisters or my mom wanted to hear about it. They would all be like, "Stop talking to me about it." They hated hearing about it because it became all he'd want to talk about.
Right.
And all of my like, I had a sister that wouldn't even go to church or didn't want to talk about anything church related. And then like my oldest sisters kind of were like getting out of the house and going to college at that point. And then like my other sister and my mom were like, just don't talk to us about that. We don't like hearing about it. And
Okay.
so that was like left on me. It's like my dad, when it was just me and my dad, like he would use that as an opportunity just to like unload this stuff.
Oh, so you were getting your conspiratorial mind going pretty early there.
Yeah, like I was 12 when he started like anytime I was in a car ride with my dad, he would just like want to put on tapes or CDs, or like want to put on all these like conspiracy shows. And he would listen to like Coast to Coast a lot. But the worst part was, I thought, okay, just let me listen to it. But I never actually really listened to it when we were together, because he was the kind of person that would like, he had already listened to it like a bunch of times and studied it, and he just wanted to tell me what he knew about it. So he would like play it for 2 minutes, and then he would turn it off and be like, explain all this stuff, and then he would put it on for like another minute and a half, and then he'd turn it off and like just talk, talk, talk. And he was trying to tell me, kind of scare me a lot to like, I don't know. He just
Well,
wanted to unload
it's
it.
kind of interesting. I mean, if you may not think of it this way, but hearing it, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm sure there's a few conspiracy dads out there right now where it's kind of like your dad had an outlet in you. You were kind of a safe space for him to kind of let his conspiracy flag fly there. And he knew that he had you cornered, he had you trapped,
Yeah,
so you had to
yeah.
listen.
Because he knew I was like sensitive to the fact that like I stuff really like would I would hear it and it would really like affect me, and so he knew that. And like I'm kind of similar minded in a lot of ways to my dad, like more, I would say more so than any of my other sisters. And so like he kind of knew that, so he would be like try to like he knew this stuff would like get under my skin and like make me want to be more like a better Catholic or something. Because
Uh-huh. Do you think it was specifically to sort of evangelize you into Catholicism, or do you think it was like,
well, I was already a Catholic, but he knew I was like doing things that would be sinful, or and like this went into my teens.
uh-huh.
Like when you become a teen, you start doing like more sinful stuff, like watching a lot of trashy TV, and like I watched a lot of TV, and I definitely didn't take my religion very seriously ever.
Sure, sure.
So I think he saw that I didn't ever read the Bible ever, and I just I think he wanted to like kind of let me be aware. Like I realized he was doing it out of love. Like he wanted me to be aware of stuff, but he was doing it very, very intensely. And I can remember like a specific time. I was only about 12, and sorry, am I talking too intense?
No, you're doing
Okay.
great. Keep it going.
Okay. So I remember one time when I was like 12, he opened this book that like supposedly some old saint had died and suffered the pains of purgatory, and like spent some time in purgatory and then came back to life to tell about it. And he was like reading me this book about like the agonies of purgatory,
Uh-huh.
which is like if someone doesn't know, it's like basically a temporary hell where most in the Catholic belief, most souls go there. If you're not going to go to if you're not going to hell, then you're going to go to purgatory for a long time at least, because you have to burn off all your sins.
A little mini hell. A
Yeah,
little
and
hell junior.
yeah, exactly. And it's like this book, for like he was reading to me as a 12-year-old, and like I didn't think I was holy by any means, so it really scared me. He was reading to me about like the agony of hell, like even the most holiest of nuns go there and experience excruciating pain, and not even the physical pain is as bad as the mental pain that you experience while you're there. And you could go there for you could go there for thousands of years.
Yikers.
So yeah, that was my first like full on panic attack that I ever had. Like I was having an absolute panic attack, crying, and he was still reading it to me, like he's like probably thinking like, oh, it's working. So he was like still telling me about it, even though I was freaking out and crying. And I ended up locking myself in the bathroom, and I was like, I'm never leaving the bathroom ever again, so I don't ever sin. Just because
Wow.
I didn't want to add to my time in purgatory.
Oh, you were getting it. You're getting it good.
Yeah, so I was like, dang, I gotta lock myself in here so I don't ever sin again. I just like wait here till I die. And so I would just think about stuff like that a lot when I was a kid. Like when I was like a teen, I would just think like, what's the point?
Yeah,
And
there's
so I kind of,
not a lot of hope in that in that setup
yeah.
you had going on.
And honestly, like when you're asking me about, oh, what did I want to do? Honestly, like when I became a teenager, I had no plans for my life, and I just got really depressed. And I kind of like, whenever my dad would talk to me about this stuff, I would just think, what's the point? You know, like
Right.
I'm just die and be miserable. So I didn't really, I was pretty like going through a hard time.
This is kind of like a hope sapping uh, thing that was getting pushed on you a little bit.
Oh yeah. And like I thought God was like, I just thought God was like always mad at me and like just, I just always felt guilty about stuff. And I don't know, it just painted the picture that God's just really angry all the time and is just always mad at you. And there wasn't like the love side at all.
Right, right. And what was your mom doing during all this? Was your mom know that this was going on?
Yeah, like if I went and told my mom, she would like be like, tell my dad, like stop talking to her like that.
Yeah,
Stop telling her about this stuff because it's freaking her out.
right.
But but he would still like, when I got a little older, he would like still try to tell me about like conspiracies and stuff. And I didn't mind hearing about conspiracies because honestly, I always liked like if it's true, I want to hear about it
Right.
kind of thing. So he would tell me about some stuff, and I was okay with it, but he had a way of like kind of choking you and like cornering, not choking literally, but like
Yeah.
just like cornering you and like making you feel like this is gonna happen. And
Right.
I didn't like hearing it from him.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Now, you're saying this was happening during your teenage years. I mean, these are some prime years for rebellion, and I could see how if you kind of had this despair, being the lack of hope, sort of floating around you a little bit. I like to think I like to be optimistic, thinking that maybe your dad wasn't purposefully trying to uh, turn things a little bleak, or at least
no,
your outlook as a whole. He probably was doing the best he could,
yeah,
but
I mean,
I could see how that could inspire just a little bit of extra shenanigans as a teenager.
yeah. I mean, I had a lot of guilt to like do a lot of bad stuff, but at the same time, I wanted to escape like how I felt and like when I would think about all the scary stuff.
Yeah.
So, like I can say like when we would escape to the TV and just watch like trashy TV, and we knew if my dad came down and saw it, like we'd have to flip the channel really fast.
Busted.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that with my mom. Like she would watch all like the junk TV too. So it's
Right.
kind of this weird thing where they were like not on the same page at all.
Right. 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 Right.
But anyway, like I would say naturally, if you're just like filled with lots of trashy television, you're not gonna like you're naturally gonna go into the areas that like a lot of teenagers just naturally go into.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, like I got drunk the first time when I was 14, but I didn't like go crazy into drinking ever because I never really liked it honestly. But like I wanted to do that and thought it was really cool, or like ate a pot brownie when I was 15. I thought that was so cool. I mean, it was not
Sweet.
really extreme, but I still was going to mass every Sunday, and I still had like I felt really guilty when
Now, now, did you want to go to mass? Were you doing this kind of by force, or were you kind of like were you roped in at this point?
I we were never forced because one of my sisters, like the middle child of the family, she early on decided she didn't want to go. She didn't want to go to church at all, and she was very angry. So my parents were like, okay, fine. She never had to go to church.
Yeah.
But, like the rest of us were like, we'll go. And I honestly, I mean, I did believe in Jesus, like as much as I knew about him. I didn't know that much about him, but I think I always did because I can remember even being a really small child and like praying, like as a little 3-year old,
Yeah.
and like I would always say my prayers and stuff like that, but I was just not like being consistent at all.
Sure, sure. But I mean, you bought in to some extent.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So there okay, cool. So your dad's really intense, things get intensifying a little bit. You're a teenager now. What happens next?
Um. Well. So I knew when I graduated high school, I hated high school and I was from a small town and I just really wanted to move somewhere really far away where I didn't know anyone. I always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But being the youngest, my mom was like, "Oh, we can't like co-sign for you at like a big school because all your sisters already went to like expensive schools and it was kind of too much."
Yeah.
So by the time like everybody else had the choice of where they went to college, and like by the time it was me, my mom's like, well, I was kind of a bad student too, so my mom didn't really trust me, like academically, and so she's like, you're just gonna go to the community college right here, like right in our county. I was really bummed out because I wanted to move far away, but she just didn't like see me as being reliable. So I went to the community college and they had just opened like some dorms and I was just dying to like move out of the house.
Sure.
And so they just that year they had these dorms and so I was like the first generation of people to live there. So that was really cool that I got to, even though it was still like 20 minutes from my parents' house, it was really cool to get to live outside of their house.
Hey, I get you. The first time you're able to move out, that's a freeing moment.
Yeah, so I mean, I I just like my dad said, "Well, I'll still be picking you up for church every Sunday," but then like I only let that happen a couple times because I only went out of guilt anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So you started to kind of make some different choices as far as that's concerned.
Right, and I just started saying like, "Don't bother. I don't really need to go. It's not a big deal." And like he stopped picking me up because I like just stopped going, and I told him I didn't want to go anymore.
Oh,
So
his
you know,
little
like
his little Catholic conspiracy girl's all grown up.
yeah, yeah. And so I just decided like I remember thinking like I don't renounce God or like anything like that. It wasn't like a full on rebellion. It was just more like I feel so indoctrinated with everything my dad has taught me that I need to like breathe from it and like I don't want to be one of those people that just follows whatever religion they were born into and then like never questions it.
Right, right.
So I was like, I remember like kind of making a deal in my head. I was like, I really want to know the truth. So I know if I'm going to find the truth, I have to get away from this because
Sure.
it's so like hammered in my head. So I just have to like break away from it completely if I'm going to ever like know any truth at all. So, and I didn't even, I still consider like maybe this is the truth, but if it is, I want to find out for myself.
Right, right. Oh, that's good. That's, going out on that personal journey to find the truth is that's a rite of passage in this day and age where there is real no rite of passage anymore within the culture. It's at least a spiritual rite of passage for breaking away from what you were raised with, breaking away from what you had known for a while, and being okay with being led back to it if indeed it is the truth.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like everyone kind of should have that attitude to an extent.
Yeah.
Like anyone, whatever because people always say, oh, but what about people who are born into, like this religion or that religion? Well, it's like, you know, everybody should question what is the truth for themselves and not just follow whatever they were born into. I
Right.
mean, I realize like some countries aren't as like, it's kind of forced on you, but even then you can still have it within, you can still question it in your heart.
Sure,
And
and
I
and
think
being able to, I mean, what I've noticed from talking to everybody that I've talked to and doing the research that I have, just on even just the sociology of spirituality, it's really having the ability to question what you've been raised with is a luxury. I mean, in America especially, it's a luxury maybe we take advantage of, and kind of in the Western world we don't think about it. But in much of the world, just even allowing yourself the faintest doubt that what you've been raised with may be, the ultimate truth is a pretty daring and courageous and scary thing to do. Like I said, if I think everybody here listening to this kind of knows hopefully where the search for truth will end up, but it really takes kind of a step of courage to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is like, it's a scary feeling because you're like, I don't know what's going to lead me at this point, but
Right.
like, hopefully. But I think you kind of know. At least I sort of kind of always believed in the God of the Bible, like
Yeah.
knowing, you probably are the real one, but I just have to get away somehow.
Right.
And so I did that. And well, when you were talking just now, I was thinking, is anyone listening to this?
Yep. Well, our friends at the NSA are listening to this at live right now.
Oh,
But yeah, in about a week there will be an audience listening to it.
hi.
Hey.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm rambling.
Did it just occur to you that that was the case?
Yeah, like I just got into like a weird like tunnel vision, and then I was like, "Whoa, are people actually listening?"
No, that's good. It's just you and me, girl. We're doing this
Okay,
together.
yeah.
The audience is they're a tertiary character in this conversation. Okay, so you started your
Yeah.
search for truth. We're just getting on it.
Yeah.
Let's do
Okay.
this.
All right. So anyway, so I'm at the college like dorms. I live 20 minutes away from my parents' house.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and then I'm just like able to experiment more. Like, I think I had already been dating a guy who's like a really big pothead, like in high school. But
Uh-huh.
I think I was still dating that guy, and I was able to like stay out late and like smoke a bunch of pot and go on car rides, and it wasn't necessarily a good feeling, so I didn't really like it. I would get really paranoid and freaked out. But like you could go get drunk and do all these things and not feel bad because your parents weren't going to be knowing about it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I always like kind of did feel bad anyway. But anyway, um, then I got a job at the college in the IT department, even though I'm not tech. Like you probably already figured that out. I'm not tech savvy.
You figured out how to plug headphones into a laptop. That's something.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm really trying, I guess I can. But I'm kind of like annoyed with that stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. But anyway, so I worked at the IT department, and I met some friends there. I met a guy and a girl that were really cool and really nice to me, and they were friends, and they all had like a larger group of friends, and I just thought they were really neat people. So I was just kind of like a loner. I just started hanging out with them, like because they invited me to hang out a bunch of times. And like I said, one of the times I met up and I got dropped off in this like alleyway in front of the apartment of one of the friends. And I remember in the dark alley, there was this guy who was sitting on the ground, like he had like big shaggy hair. And I just remember like, whoa, this guy's cool. Like he had like, I remember like feeling that like right away. It's like, whoa, he's got like a whole different thing about him like that no one I've ever met has had. It was kind of interesting, but I didn't really like think about it too hard because I think this was right after I broke up with my pothead boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
So I wasn't like trying to date. I just like kind of wanted to have friends because I didn't have any friends before that. So I was just like hanging out, and these were a bunch of art kids, and um, like some of them were kind of squatters.
Fidgeting.
Oh yeah, yeah. And some of them were kind of like squatters, like bad kids, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah, you had a little rough crowd going on there.
Yeah, and like they would take drugs, and like that was the first time I ever took like popped pills was with them, and I thought it was so cool. And we took like I don't know some like junk pharmaceutical thing, but we were just taking it to get high, and I was like, whoa, this is so crazy. We'd all like go hang out at this hookah bar, and and then one time I bought we'd hang out on this old abandoned factory, like that was one of our hangouts, And I remember like one time I ate mushrooms, and then like I was starting to get into the whole like taking drugs and psychedelics and to explore the spirituality of
Yeah,
that.
well, that was going to be my question. It seems like you kind of took a little detour from the church and started getting in with a shaggy hair crowd, doing some drugs. I mean, were you looking actively into different spiritual stuff? Were you kind of trying to get into the new age, which seems to be a pretty popular option coming out of
Yeah.
Orthodox Christian traditions of many kinds?
I
Uh,
mean, like, I don't think people like right off the bat like I want to get into New Age. I mean, maybe they are, but they just like I think it kind of just comes naturally when you start taking a bunch of drugs
uh-huh.
because you're like, oh, you're just like going with the flow of the energies, and you're just like, I don't know, picking up on the vibes that you when you take the drugs, and it kind of like it does like give you this superpower kind of feeling. I remember when I took the mushrooms, I remember feeling like Mario, and I was like, oh, I could jump off this building if I wanted, and I would be fine.
Oh
The
boy.
people the people I were with weren't on mushrooms, and they were like, definitely don't do that.
Well, it's good to have babysitters when you're gonna
Yeah,
get on some of the fancy stuff. You gotta have somebody looking out for you.
yeah. I mean, I never took like so many that I was just absolutely like seeing things, but I never went that far. But it was like enough to feel really crazy, feel really like you feel like really spiritual in a way.
Sure, sure.
I think that's why a lot of people just love to take drugs because at least psychedelics because and uppers because it just makes you feel like more powerful and like you feel like you have some spiritual powers to see into the spirit realm or something. And that's what I really liked about it. And then like I also just love that like smoking a bunch of pot all the time with a bunch of people made it acceptable for me to be as weird as I am.
Right.
Like, that was like the biggest thing because I didn't have friends for a couple years before that. I kind of like, you know,
So you were kind of finding your way in the world, not just spiritually, but you were, making
yeah, like I finally,
friends.
yeah, like I finally found a group of people I like got along with because they were all sort of like outsiders, like the outsider loner type that like to take a bunch of drugs, weirdos, and so we all thought we were pretty cool because we were like the weirdos, I guess you could say, and
Sure, sure.
so like I sort of just embraced that and the fact that like okay yeah I am really a strange person but no one can tell because I'm or they can tell but it's acceptable because I'm on drugs,
Okay. Yeah. Everything's
stuff like that.
cool when you're on drugs.
Yeah, like anything's down, like you're almost like cooler the weirder you are when you're on drugs, so
Sure.
it's like it
Sure.
works in a way.
Okay.
So anyway, and then I ended up like after a few months I got together I started dating who's now my husband, but you're not supposed to know that part yet,
Uh-oh.
but that's a secret. um we started dating and he was really into like some dark stuff. He hated religion, like organized religion. I remember he was really angry and I knew that right off the bat because he would listen to a lot of like really blasphemous music against God and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it definitely like startled me and I was like I knew it was wrong, but I was like, whatever, something tells me.
It's edgy, gets the people going.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the really, really like blasphemous stuff that spoke against God, but whatever. I kind of just like let it go.
Okay.
And then, so anyway, he really liked reading weird books on like yeah like New Age books, and he started reading like this cult leader guy, Osho. He's like this weird New Age like fake Buddhist cult leader.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, like we started reading his books and we thought it was so cool. And like we both kind of realized like because we'd read them out loud like together, and we both kind of realized like none of it made any sense. It would be like It would, but you feel like cool. You like pretend you know what it means.
Right. It's just like so deep.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just this guy is like laughing, like just reeling in the money.
Yeah.
Like just because he has a beard, everyone's like, "Oh yes."
I
So
know,
what?
man. It's those beards. You get super
If you have a long
spiritual.
beard, if you have a long beard and you wear a robe, then you can say anything.
I know. I got to get me a robe.
And so anyway, it would be like the tree, the wind. Once you become Zen, the wind between the trees will disappear, and all else will fall away, and then you will cut the tree down, but the tree will have never been there. But then it's just like this random ramblings about, trees and anyway,
Sure.
and you just pretend like you know. And then he started getting into like these black magic books. Well, not, I don't know. It was called Chaos Magic.
Yeah.
He got into like reading some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this
I'm
stuff
familiar.
I didn't really get into it. It freaked me out. But I got really into like astrology and all that. And I just started to love astrology.
Oh, so you went full fledged. This was not a Catholic to Protestant sort of change, simple historical shift. This was you ran the full gamut here.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Okay.
so then me and him, so we were dating, and then we dated for a year, and then we decided like let's go because I always wanted to move away, like I said. We decided to move across the country together. So we're from the Midwest, and
That's bold.
we decided to move somewhere where we never had been and we didn't know anyone, so we did. We saved up the money and we moved across the country to Portland, Oregon.
And you
And
guys
this
were just dating at this point.
Yeah, we were just dating. We had dated
Okay.
for a year. We're like, let's go. And so we did. And we moved to Portland, Oregon. And
How'd your dad feel about that?
I mean, he kind of like he probably wasn't happy about it, but he let me make my own decisions. So he knew I was gonna do it if I was. I don't know. He wasn't gonna stop me
Okay. All right.
at that point.
He had given up by this point.
I mean, I think he still like trusted me, and I know he was like praying for me a lot, but I don't know exactly. Like, I didn't really think about stuff like that. But I know my mom, like, I didn't do any research on Portland. Like, we just decided to move there out of nowhere. And my mom looked it up a little bit, and she was like, wow, there are more strip clubs there than anywhere in the whole country. I did not become a stripper over there. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to do that. And it also happens to be like, I guess, one of the most unchurched cities in America. Or,
Sure.
yeah. So we moved there, and it's very, yeah, like not a Christian place to live. If you want to find hard drugs, it's very easy. At least when we were living, like when we first moved there back, I don't know, like 7, 8 years ago. It was really easy to find hard drugs, and so we found those pretty fast.
We went to Portland and we found some hard drugs pretty fast.
Yeah, because like my husband, like one day when I was at work, he made friends with these like young heroin addicts. They were like they were like I don't know, they were kind of functional, but they would do a lot of heroin. And
Yeah.
he's like, these kids are cool. And there were a lot of like young like crust punk homeless kids there at the time.
Yeah.
Like a lot, they were everywhere. And like so we got to know a lot of those people and like went and did some wild things with them.
I mean, hey, I'm not going to push it, but it sounds like you glossed over some details there.
Well, one time we went, I guess like the craziest thing we did, we tried heroin once. I did.
Mm-hmm.
We did that, but then we went train hopping one time,
Did you do
which
it?
was pretty wild.
Did you go full needle or just some nose action?
Yeah, full needle. We
Oh,
did that.
whoa.
Like like a few months after we moved there. It
We're
was
in
pretty
Portland now, baby.
Yeah, and so it's not like when you move there it's a bunch of heroin. I mean, but you can find it if you're looking.
Sure.
And so like we did, and then I just did it the one time, and then like like me and my husband, or he was my boyfriend at the time. So anyway, we made a pact, like, okay, we're only gonna try this one time. We'll never do it again. And like we promised, and I really meant it. Like I was only gonna do it one time because
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't really want to do it because it didn't really appeal to me. But I decided to do it because he was gonna do it, and I knew if like he had done it and I hadn't, it would be like this thing, like you don't know what it's like.
This guy
And then
sounds like a bad influence, Mary.
yeah,
I'm just gonna come out and say it. He
yeah,
sounds like a bad influence.
yeah. And so I mean, he was like, he was a troublemaker kind of guy, kind of. So yeah, so we promised we'd just do it the one time, and then like he had done it a bunch of other times behind my back, but
Right.
I did it the one time. But like we would take other drugs. Oh, what was that?
I don't know. Scary noises.
I think there's like lightning going on, but
Yeah,
I thought I heard it through my headphones. It kind of freaked me out.
yeah, yeah. I hear some thunder over there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all it is. Anyway, I hope I'm not like glorifying taking drugs on this
No,
because
no.
that's
There have
real.
been more talk of taking drugs on this podcast than I ever thought there were going to be. Not just your episode, but I think what's happening is nobody can talk about drugs on any other Christian Fringe podcast, so we just all
Like,
do it here.
well, I'm really not trying to like
No, no,
give.
it's a part of the story.
Okay, all right. Well, if I'm going too far, let me know because I'm really not sure. Like that's my problem. I don't.
No, I've pretty much having to give parental uh, uh parental
Advice.
parental advisories at the beginning of like the past 8 episodes, so I think by now people are just starting to understand.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
No, you're all good. You're all good. So, but
I'm not gonna get into any like really graphic. I have nothing like really graphic to talk about. I mean, you probably don't want your kids hearing about heroin and stuff like that, but
hey, it's all good. You do you, girl. And yeah, parental advisory. I'm sure there'll be one at the beginning of this episode. But it sounds like so you really went full on. You moved to Portland with your chaos magician boyfriend. Tried a
he
bunch of
never really
drugs.
got into it. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's more fun to say it that way. And then
yeah,
you did some heroin in Portland.
yeah. And
You
I did that. I tried that like once, but then we did a lot of like ecstasy and Molly, and I like that because it's like automatically you're gonna feel good no matter what.
sure.
So we did that, and blah blah blah. We got into like I started being more comfortable with darker music, whereas I used to have like an uncomfortable feeling. I started to like actually embrace like the darkness of heavy metal and like Marilyn Manson and stuff like that. I still felt that it was dark, but you make that your light, like kind of how the Bible says, if your light is darkness.
Yeah, so you had a very maybe slow but consistent descent there away from
Yeah,
what
and
a
I would
lot
say
of Christians would say would be the right way to go.
yeah, and like music was a huge part of it too, because I mean, I could you could see like on a timeline of first if you saw what I was listening to, it started getting darker and darker, and I just got more comfortable with that, and like the discernment goes down, like your guilt goes down. Oh yeah, we started. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought the thing was gonna close out. Um, like, oh yeah, I never wanted to steal anything, but then I kind of got into that because like my boyfriend at the time, he used to steal art supplies, and he would justify it like, well, it's okay if um, because you're using it for good, you're gonna make art with it, so it's cool, it's fine. And so I was like, okay. And then so we started like stealing stuff, and nothing big, but I mean, I'm sure it added up.
Yeah, but art supplies, heroin.
Like food. Well, we didn't steal the heroin. We paid for that. But But yeah, I mean like the bad stuff we were doing, yeah, heroin and like all the drugs adding up. Should I not have said that about the shoplifting?
Why not?
Oh, that's okay.
Is
Okay.
there a warrant out for your arrest?
Yeah. Well, we actually did end up getting caught one time, but it was like the dumbest thing. And like that ended up being the last time I ever stole anything.
Yeah, that'll do it for you.
Yeah, one time it was so embarrassing. We didn't go to jail. Like the guys were nice about it, and the thing we stole was the dumbest thing. We stole eye drops. We got caught.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody who tries to steal eye drops eventually gets caught. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I see what's going on here. So you, I mean, hey, if it goes deeper, you let me know, girl. But where did this thing start turning around?
Okay. So, well, it went like maybe a little deeper, but not that much further. So then so then I guess like I didn't realize, but my boyfriend, my husband, who's my boyfriend, she started taking like popping a lot of pills, downer pills, which are basically like heroin, but just taking in a pill form. And
Sure,
I didn't
opioids.
really, yeah, and like I knew he did it a little bit, but I didn't think it was like a full on addiction. I thought he was just doing it like sometimes for fun, because sometimes I would do it a little bit. And anyway, um and like our relationship was pretty bad at this point. I mean, you could imagine like taking a bunch of drugs and just being like horrible people all the time.
No,
It's not
no.
going to be like a
No.
happy. Well, anyway, so he ended up like moving in with his source for getting the pills. He was a friend, but it was basically like convenient for him because he could live with his drug dealer. And
Wait,
so he
were you guys living together?
Oh yeah, I mean we lived together the whole time, and then like there was a little while, like 8 months, that we broke up.
Ah, okay. There it is.
Yeah, we ended up breaking up, and he went to live with a friend, and I lived with people off of Craigslist, which it actually worked out really well. They were ended up being really good friends. But I mean it worked out well in a worldly way, like because they did drugs and they did all that. But
Well, they didn't murder you and stuff you in a
no,
trunk.
yeah,
So,
was like
as far as Craigslist roommates go, that's a pretty good deal.
yeah, like I still keep in contact with one of the guys that I lived with, and he's a really nice guy. But
Okay.
anyway, um, so anyway, there was a time when I was just living at this house with a bunch of friends, and then he was living with his drug dealer, and I was kind of blind to the fact that it was as bad as it was. But I eventually ended up moving back with him into like the drug house, and like I didn't realize, but he was a full blown drug addict at that point. He was just like daily popping oxycontins, and I didn't really get that, which is really weird.
Sure, sure.
But okay, so my turning point is so like if I was living in Portland, but I would still always go back for holidays. Like once a year, I would go back for a holiday to visit my family. And every time I go back, of course, my dad wanted to talk to me, like because he could see how much further away I was getting. And I remember like one time thinking I was so smart because I was into Taoism at that point. And I was like, it's all about the yin and yang. You don't get it. Like it's so much deeper than you get, Dad. And I was trying to tell him about the like Taoism kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like I really had him with that. And but he would always try to like tell me, you need to come back to the church. Like he never really just told me about it. Wasn't really like come back to the Lord or Jesus. It was like you need to get back to the Catholic Church because that is his church. You better get back to it or else you're going to hell.
Right, right.
But like I would hear him, and every single time I went back every year, I would end up having like a panic attack and crying because I knew I was living in a lot of sin. And I would have like these horrible panic attacks, and I just hated it. And then I would just try to like avoid my dad the whole time, be like, I can't talk about this. And I would always call my boyfriend and be like crying, be like, try to get him to convince me that that stuff, like God and all that, wasn't true, and I didn't have to follow him because, like, at this point, I didn't really feel like I could.
Yeah.
Such a lifestyle that I didn't really think I could possibly, like. So anyway, um, but back in my regular life, I remember thinking like, man, I started to realize I wanted to do art like as a real thing, and I wanted to get into animation, and I wanted to use animation to like help people, but at the time, like, I wanted to put messages in it that were kind of like Buddhist or Taoist kind of ideas. So I thought that would be like helpful and encouraging for people. So that was kind of like my whole idea in life, to do that. And anyway, so one particular time when I went back for Thanksgiving, my dad was trying to talk to me like he normally did, except like I think this time he was getting a little bit smarter about how to talk to people, because he knew like every time he tried to talk to me, I would end up freaking out, screaming, and getting really mad and crying and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
there
this,
you go.
yeah, so this particular time, he was like really trying to have a dialogue with me and trying to show me that, my life was just not headed in a good direction. And he was a little more gentle about how he approached it. So I was listening a little better to what he said. And, but even at that point, I remember getting mad, and I was like, well, I just can't change my life, because then I would have to change everything I like all the music and all my friends, everything, everything I'm trying to like do with my life. I would have to throw it all away, and that just seems too hard. I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I remember like I was crying, but I was mad and I was crying like I usually did, because it would really shake everything. And because I knew like at that point, if I died, I was headed to hell. I knew it. And so, um, like I kind of believe that, like, yeah, Jesus is the real one. He's the way, but I didn't really get, like, I still thought God was kind of angry and mean. I didn't really understand. I thought you had to be a Catholic. And anyway, so I remember one thing that he said to me really, really stuck. And like he actually said it very nicely and not like in a scary way. Because I remember telling him, like, I can't change what I'm into. I can't just change my mind overnight because, you know, because like this is who I've become.
Yeah.
And he said like really nicely, he was like, you don't have to change yourself. If you submit to him, he will change you. And I had never heard of that, like, ever. I never thought of God like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I thought like you have to change right now, or else, God is pissed at you, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he was like, he'll start changing your mind, and you'll be really surprised. The things you think you like right now that you're so attached to, he will absolutely change you from that if you submit to him. And I remember thinking like, wow, well, that's kind of cool if he could actually do that. But I sort of just didn't say anything, and I went to bed that night. And um I went to bed that night, and I had the scariest nightmare I've ever had in my whole life. It was horrifying, and it was just very, very demonic. And basically, like, I'll just tell it really fast. I was in this giant, like, this enormous high school, and everyone in the high school was trying to come after me and kill me, and like these high school kids, and they were just all trying to chase me, and I was trying to get away. And I kind of felt like a helpless, like, little bird that they wanted to just like torture and kill for fun.
Wow.
It was a really scary dream, and they were just chasing me the whole time, and like none of the adults were paying any attention. and I was just trying to get out of the school. And then I had a vision in the basement, like the dungeon cellar of the high school. There was just these black spirits floating around, and there were like dark chains, and they were just torturing people under the school.
Right, right.
And it was the scariest thing though. I saw like this like floating spirit, and it was just the scariest thing ever. And then what happened when I was trying to escape the school, I finally got to the outside and like saw the parking lot. And as I was trying to escape, I felt helpless. I was trying to fly, but I couldn't. I looked up, and all these birds started soaring from the sky and like stabbing everyone's eyes out.
Oh my gosh, girl, this is terrifying.
Yeah, it was scary. But the crazy thing was they didn't come near me. Like the birds were on my side. Like they were stabbing the eyes out of all the really evil people, and like apparently I was on the good side of the birds. And but anyway, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
And so
that's quite the dream.
yeah, and so I woke up, I was crying. I told my sister that she like had just woken up in the middle of the night too, and I told it to her, and she was like, "What? That's the creepiest thing I ever heard." And I was crying. And then anyway, after that whole like Thanksgiving trip that I was there, I went home, and I was definitely like shook in, like, dang, I kind of have to like become a Catholic, but
Dang, I kind of have to become a Catholic.
and then so when I went back, I told my boyfriend, and he was like, he hated organized religion, he hated all that stuff, 'cause he grew up Jehovah's Witness, and like he has a whole nother story, but I won't get into all that.
Sure.
But he was like traumatized from it, so he hated it. But he was like, would always talk me out of it. And I told him, my dad was kind of like talking to me about being I don't know what I said, but becoming Catholic and going to church, and he kind of just like shrugged it off, was like, whatever, that's whatever. He wasn't gonna do that. And then I was like, yeah. I mean, I wasn't that convicted. I was freaked out, but I wasn't like convicted to really change. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I just kind of forgot about it for a couple weeks and went back even harder into like my life of sin, to just kind of drain it all out, or kind of, like brain, just wash it all out of my head.
Sure,
And
sure.
I would try to like smoke a bunch of pot to like forget about it, but it ended up becoming way, way, way
Just get
worse.
super paranoid about it.
Yeah. And I started to feel like, man, I'm already like, I remember feeling just surrounded by like hell, like a feeling like I was already in hell in a way. It was really scary.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, like I remember being in my room alone, and like I smoked a bunch of pot, and I was trying to just like have fun with people, but I couldn't. Like the thought of hell would just come in my head all the time. And I just remember feeling like, man, I already have 1 foot in there, basically.
Holy smokes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I could feel it. It was scary. And I just knew all like the new age mumbo jumbo, like, oh, like the whole thing was like live out your best potential, like
Follow
just
your
be
bliss.
yeah, like your life purpose is, there's a spirit in this, just a impersonal spirit that just is smiling if you just do whatever makes you happy. And that could be like being a horrible selfish person, but as long as you're the happiest you could ever be, that's the best thing you can do.
Right.
you know and I remember thinking about, wait, that doesn't add up, because what about somebody who can't just like go live out their ultimate potential? Like, what about someone who's like mentally handicapped or something? Like, what
Right.
about those people? And who's gonna help them if everybody's just selfish and all focusing on their self? I remember thinking that, like, who's gonna help like anybody if it's just all about you?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So I remember just thinking like, well, that doesn't. It's kind of stupid actually. That was like that idea. But anyway, I'll move it along.
No, I'm just riveted by the story. I'm soaking it all in over here.
Okay. Okay. And so then, so at this point, like after that Thanksgiving trip I just told you about, like definitely feeling scared and like had that scary dream. A couple of weeks went by. There was like this Christmas party at my work, and I got absolutely wasted, and I didn't really like drinking that much.
Uh-oh, getting wasted at the Christmas party. That's its own sort of hell.
It is. Cause I've never like really liked drinking that much. It just makes me feel really sick, and I'm not the kind of person that enjoys it. Just
Sure.
I like taking drugs, but I didn't like drinking that much.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so like I think it was just an escape kind of thing. And so I just like was chugging beer and wine at the same time, like going crazy, and I brought my boyfriend with me, my husband. I brought him with me, and he was like, "Dang, you're gonna get fired after that. You were being like the craziest person there." I was like screaming at people. I was making like crazy like sounds. I don't know. I was acting crazy. Like I would act like an animal literally when I would drink. I'm not trying to make it sound fun or anything, but like it's just craziness, you know. And yeah, he's like, "Dang, that was you're gonna get fired," but like I didn't because it was a crazy place to work at anyway.
Sure.
Um, so anyway, like I remember just spending like a couple days just laying in bed, kind of just like watching TV shows after that because I was hungover, and like we were just kind of lounging around, and I was sober, but just like kind of after that whole Christmas party thing, like maybe 2 days later, um, I was we were I was laying in bed, and my boyfriend, who's not my husband at the time, he was laying there with me, and he was watching the show Jackass. Excuse me, but
Uh-huh.
that's he was watching the show on his laptop, and I was like just kind of like sitting there. I don't really know, but all I didn't feel tired at all, but I just felt like, okay, it's time for me to lay down and like go to sleep in a way. So I laid down, I closed my eyes, and like I don't know, it was weird. It was like I'm not tired right now, but I just like have to go lay down. And so I did. So I laid down and I closed my eyes, and um like instantly when I closed my eyes, I was like transported. Like
Ooh, there we go.
yeah, so like this is like the I guess you could say like the the climate or
Climax?
climax. Oh my gosh, I
The
can't talk.
climate.
The climate control. No, the climax of the story, I guess. Um, and okay, so like we're laying around in bed, and then I close my eyes, and instantly I'm transported into this in like the dream realm. But it wasn't like when you fall asleep and it takes however long you're dreaming, and it's like all blur. This was like instant. Like I closed my eyes and boom, it was very clear.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so in this, I was back at my parents' house, and like the crazy thing I have to say, like I've remembered a lot of my dreams from my childhood and stuff. I've never had like an accurate to life dream. I've had some really crazy dreams that nothing looks like what it should. But in this, when I was at my parents' house, the house looked exactly how it looks. It was accurate. And my parents were standing there in the downstairs in the kitchen, and I remember my heart started pounding really, really hard, like in this really intense, kind of exciting, but really terrifying way.
Yeah.
Like I just knew I had to go up the stairs, and I was terrified. I didn't want to go up the stairs, but I knew I had to, and it was kind of exciting. And like I could feel it like in my body, like my heart was pounding in real life. And um, so my dad said, "Come on, you got to go upstairs. I'll walk up there with you." So my dad walked me up the stairs, and I went to the door that was my bedroom at my parents' house, and I opened the door, and like um this light blasted out of the closet, and it was the bedroom just like how it looks, except it didn't have any furniture.
Right. Whoa.
But this white, like extremely white, bright light just blasted out of the closet. And oh man, I didn't think I was gonna get like emotional, but I'm actually
Oh,
getting emotional.
yeah.
Okay, so
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
anyway, it was like the most whitest light I've ever seen in my life. Like you couldn't possibly see this color of white in real life.
Yeah.
But it blasted out of the closet, and then instantly it appeared in front of me, and it took shape, and it was what looked like a man standing there, and he was surrounded by this white light, and it was radiating out of him. And I knew when I saw him that was Jesus. Like
Wow.
I just knew it. And um anyway, he was smiling, and I remember the whites of his eyes and his teeth were had that same like radiant white, and just the light was coming out of him. It was the wildest.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
amazing.
it was the most amazing moment of my entire life. I
You
can
had like a true biblical vision going on there.
Yeah, it was like for real. Um it was amazing. And the feeling I always was chasing when I would take like ecstasy, trying to feel really good and feel full in your spirit.
Yeah.
Well, I like taking those things because I wanted to feel like this like lifted spirit kind of feeling, but it always came with like a dirty, like false, gross feeling.
Yeah.
Well, when in this moment when I saw him, the second he was there, like in this, I felt absolute true ecstasy, and it was like it was just the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my whole life.
Wow. That's
It,
amazing.
and it wasn't like a fuzzy dream; it was the most real thing.
Talking about getting knocked off your donkey and blinded, baby.
It it
That's
was
hardcore.
it was hardcore, and the only thing I could say, like the weird thing is like in a dream I'm never like accurately myself, and I can never like say anything, you know what I mean, like it's
Sure,
just
sure. You're more you're hardly a participant in normal
yeah.
dreams.
But in this I was definitely myself, and I remember just basically like I felt like weak. It was so amazing. I just felt filled with ecstasy but like weak, and I just like the words kind of spilled out of my mouth. I shouted, he's so beautiful. Like I yelled that. I was like, wow, he's so beautiful. It was that amazing. And I didn't like hear any voice or anything like that, but I knew that was Jesus for sure, because I in that moment of ecstasy, I also was aware of my sins right in the moment that I was in front of him, and I felt certain sins of mine kind of just peel off. Like
Wow.
a couple of things I was caught up in came off immediately right then. Now I'm not saying like there's certain sins I battle to this day, but right then like I felt just so much love and no judgment. He wasn't pointing his fingers at me saying like look how horrible you are. He just smiled at me, and I just felt like he forgives me.
Wow, that's awesome. What an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was the best experience ever. And so yeah, I mean, that was just like a mini little tiny sliver of a taste, and like I can tell you folks, it's the best thing ever.
Seriously. Now, you were you were currently in your body was laying next to your boyfriend while he was watching a TV show while this happened. Did you like wake up with a start? What happened when you woke up?
Yeah, so I gasped like the second I saw had the vision. Oh wait, I have to add. There's a little something extra I have to add.
Okay.
So like so in this like vision, dream, you could call it a dream or vision, I don't know. Um, my dad came with me, but he wasn't in the room at first. It was just me and Jesus. And then he like walked over, and then my dad came in, and my dad was like trying to like get my hand to like go with him, like here, like my dad was trying to offer me to like to be with him.
Right.
But it was a weird thing. Like, okay, in the dream, I just had this understanding that my dad had good intentions, but he was like kind of taking it the wrong way.
Right.
That
Right.
was that was just like a thought in my head, but like then it ended, but then it was over. And then I woke up. I woke up and I felt like the most awake I'd felt. I mean, like just awake. And I woke up and I was like just absolutely in awe. I still felt like just filled with all the love, and I just felt really forgiven, and I knew that I was going to follow Jesus right then. Like
That's
nothing
awesome.
it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a choice at all. It was like done.
Right.
Sold. And like not to be graphic, but obviously I was with sleeping with a guy that I wasn't married to, and one of the things that being before the Lord in that moment did is he took sexual sin from me immediately. So like that was never a battle after that.
Wow. That's
And he
amazing.
that was one I felt really guilty about, but he didn't make me feel guilty at all. He just took it. So like, it's done. So I didn't,
That's what he's all about.
and I'm
That's
not
how he
saying like
rolls.
I've never had an impure thought in my life, but like that was never a problem that I would struggle with after that.
Right,
And
right.
it was honestly something I thought I would have struggled with, but he took it right away.
Yeah. Well, I imagine when you coming out of this, it's a pretty exciting thing, obviously, pretty life-changing, exciting event. How did it go over telling the boyfriend about it?
Well, so we were like among all this, we were pretty close. Like I mean, we moved across the country together, been through a lot together, so he knew me really well.
Yeah.
And so he knew if I like something like that was gonna happen, like I wasn't just making it up. And he heard me gasp in my sleep, and then I instantly woke up, and he was like, "Okay, what's going on?" And he said he could feel like something different, totally different in the room. Like it just felt like the air in the room was very, very different. And
Wow.
and
That's awesome.
I was a different person when I woke up. It was really crazy. Like I felt clean when I woke up.
Yeah.
And I remember, and one thing I have to add is like I used to like kind of idolize him because he like brought me into so much. My boyfriend, I kind of idolized him in an unhealthy way, and like because he brought me in to introduce me to so much stuff.
Right.
And like it was the kind of thing where I didn't think I could ever break up with him, even like it would be really hard. I could never leave him. But after that, after seeing the real deal, after after that, seeing Jesus, I looked over at my boyfriend, and I just saw darkness. He just looked so
Ah.
dim and dark. After that radiant light, it was just such a drastic contrast. And he just looked so, like I wasn't like looking at him in judgment, but I just saw darkness and like death basically.
Right, right. Yeah. You had a whole new perspective on things.
Yeah. And and he was like, "Okay, what's going on? What just happened? You're acting really different." And like this is like seconds after this just happened. And I just said like flat out, I was like, "I just saw Jesus." And then there was just like this silence in the room, and he was like, "What?" and he stood up and like to smoke a cigarette, and he was like, and I didn't say anything or try to convince him. I was just like still in awe. So I didn't really care. Like, I wasn't really thinking about him. I was just like, dang, I'm about to like, if he rejects this, I could run out of here right now and just like be fine.
Oh,
I was
wow.
in, I was in bliss. So I was like, wow. But anyway, I told him, and he was kind of just standing there like contemplating it for maybe like 5 minutes of silence. But then he turned to me and was like, wait, but don't Christians like judge everybody? And
That
I
was
just
the comment?
yeah, he's like, yeah, but once you become a Christian, don't you just start judging everybody? And I was like, um, no, it's not like that. That's all I said. I was like, it's just not like that because I just felt like the least judged I've ever felt from Jesus, who could see every horrible thing I've done, and he totally forgave me. So I was just like, no, not at all. And then he said he could feel like a dark the window was open and he was looking out the window and he said he could feel like a cut through the air, like what he would now know to be the Holy Spirit in the room, but he could feel like a darkness outside of the room that was kind of trying to tell him like, don't believe it, don't believe it.
Whoa, that's
Like he
gnarly.
he yeah, he could feel like the two like sides like don't believe it, but then he felt this kind of conviction like, all right, I know something really just happened here for real, because he could see it tangibly that I was a different person.
Yeah. Wow.
And then yeah, and then like all of a sudden he just turned to me like and was like, okay, what do we do next? Like, okay, we're gonna do this.
Wow. So she just right there just accepted it, believed it, felt some presences, and was just right on board with you.
Yeah,
There you go.
it was the craziest thing ever because he was honestly like, if you knew him before he was a Christian, he did I would not have guessed. Like I thought, oh, I'm with this guy that's on the wrong side of the tracks.
Right,
But like,
right.
I mean, that just shows you like nobody's too far, obviously.
Yeah.
But like I just he like it was definitely the Holy Spirit because he just was like, okay, what do we do? And then I said, well, I guess we'll start going to church. And then like the very next day, he was tearing all his satanic posters off the wall. He was getting rid of all his like really satanic records, and like just purging like all of the like the really evil stuff out of his life and throwing stuff away. Like that next morning,
That's
and
crazy.
yeah,
That's I mean to for such a obviously your vision and your experience is an incredible story and an incredible experience and a incredible vision that changed your life, but to have him just hear you, believe you, sense it, feel it, and then just an immediate change from the years long kind of groove that you guys were in. I mean, that right there is a miracle even.
oh, it was an absolute miracle. I mean, like when I first met him, he listened to the most blasphemous music, and he was an artist. Like he painted, would draw, and I remember some of his drawings were extremely like against Jesus and the cross, and like he had one of those like stereotype guy trying to be edgy, like make fun of the Last Supper pictures that he made.
Right.
Like he was just like that guy, and then like to instantly he knew like all this stuff is evil, I need to get it out of my life. The very next day, and he was calling his best friend and saying like, hey, I'm gonna be a Christian now, I'm a Christian. Like he was talking different, he was a different person all of a sudden.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like I called my dad right away. I called my parents immediately and told them, and like, so obviously my dad was like, all right, great, we're gonna get you into the Catholic Church, I'm sending you a care package. And he just sent me like this huge box loaded with like papal writings and like books about the saints, and like he just sent me all this Catholic stuff. He sent me like rosaries and scapulars and like just a lot of like prayer cards and stuff, but no Bible. And
Classic.
we didn't have a Bible, but we started like looking up the Bible online, just like I remember reading us Genesis like the first night, and it was just crazy.
Yeah.
And we were living in a hellhole. We were living like in a drug den basically, where they were selling guns, they were selling drugs. Like there was like young high school girls coming over, like sleeping with this guy that we lived with, and it was really a nasty place to be. And then like we just became Christians in this little room, like right across the hall. It was pretty bizarre.
That's
And
awesome.
like all that stuff was going on. Like it was crazy. We'd hear like his drug deals and all that, and we were like hidden in this little room. Like, but the crazy thing is like I immediately was like, well, we're gonna be Catholic, of course. And so I started telling him the ways of how to be a Catholic. Like, well, we got to start praying the rosary immediately. And we started going to Catholic church and all that. And like, I just thought, well, there's no other way to be a Christian.
Right.
Like, being a Catholic is the only way. And honestly, like, I was raised thinking like Protestants and non-Catholic Christians were kind of, they're not very smart. They don't really get it. Like I honestly just thought these people are just trying to oversimplify the Bible because they're, just kind of lazy or not that smart, or they just want to make it too easy. And when you have to do this, you have to have your sacraments, you have to go to the mass, you have to like receive the Holy Communion, and like, you have to have your confirmation and all that, and you have to be confirmed into the faith to even eat the communion. You have to do all these things. I thought they were just being kind of lazy.
Right, right, right.
Saying like, no, we just believe in the Bible and Jesus. I thought that was like naive of people.
Yeah.
Whoa, there was like a Catholic pride. Like,
Oh, I'm
well,
sure.
we have the real way. We know what's going on.
It's more complicated, so it must be the right way.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I thought. Like, well, it's so much more like takes more to dig in. So yeah, like this is definitely the right way, and they're just trying to oversimplify it.
Yeah. So how did you so what happened then? I mean, are you Catholic now, or how did
No,
you
no,
kind
no.
of go exploring as far as that's concerned?
Well, first off, how are you? Do you have to go soon?
Yeah, we got time. We are at about 2 hours, but hey, we got to get the whole story.
Okay, yeah. I'll try not to like ramble too much, but I gotta tell some stuff. So,
We got to get the whole story.
so basically, what happened is, like at this point, like, we dove right into the Catholic Church, going to Catholic, blah blah blah. I had us learn about Fatima, and like I really got into the Fatima stuff
Right.
because like I had been taught. It was basically like everything my dad wanted me to be. I was becoming. I was becoming like a real Catholic that really did all the stuff that you should do and like makes for being a good Catholic. Like
Sure.
because basically like I had that experience, that supernatural experience, and I just wanted to feel that again so bad because it was the best feeling ever. So I just became obsessed with like apparitions and visions, and reading about saints who had miraculous visions, or like statues that moved or bled, or I just wanted like supernatural. It's called like Catholic mysticism.
Yeah.
I just wanted stuff like that.
Sure.
And so I got really obsessed with like certain saints and would read their biographies and read all about them and pray to them constantly. We had all these prayer cards. And it became actually really hectic because we had so many prayer cards. Like we're kind of pack rats. We like to collect things. Like we like collecting like little memorabilia, like little things.
Yeah.
And so we just switched it out. We got rid of all our stuff and switched it out for a bunch of Catholic stuff. We like got all this like Catholic stuff to put on the walls, and like statues of Mary, statues of Jesus, all these pictures, prayer cards.
And we all know that the Catholics, they got a good collection of flotsam and jetsam if you got the shelf space for it.
Yeah, and like we ended up just loading, like we moved out of that that horrible place eventually, and like we knew like, oh, maybe we should live separate because, you know, now we're like, you know, we're not married and everything.
Right.
And we were being pure or whatever in that area, but we genuinely had no one else to live with. Like all of our friends would have been horrible people to live with at that point
Right.
because they were all like sleeping around, taking drugs, listening to all the music that we just like had to cut out of our life.
Sure.
So we ended up living together again, but we, you know, whatever, doing our thing. And I think that was honestly the best decision because we really had like nowhere else to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
With no other Christians. And so we ended up filling our place with like wall to wall with all these statues and pictures to the point where it was creepy. It was really
You overdid it a little bit.
we really did. And we just had stacks of these Catholic books, and like I was all in. I was honestly like, man, I want to be a nun because I just want to be like a saint on a prayer card that had all these mystic visions.
Right. Right. Right.
And like I'm actually named after a Catholic mystic because my name's Mary Therese, and that's like I don't know, that's a name that goes around in Catholic saints
Sure.
realms. So like there's a lot. Saint Teresa of Avila, her name was Mary Therese.
Yeah,
And
she
then
was a big mystic, wasn't she?
she was my favorite. I got really into her stuff. But I was named after, oh, I can't even say it. Saint Therese. She was a modern day saint. She's actually photographed, but she's from France, and she had some like visions of the Mother Mary and all that. And anyway, so I got really obsessed, and then my husband, like, he's seeing all the Catholic stuff with a fresh pair of eyes, whereas I was like, cool, I can actually embrace what I grew up in now. But for him, it was all brand new, so he was like questioning things, whereas I was not at all. I was like all about it, and he would just kind of question like little aesthetic details, like, why does the Pope have to wear that hat? Like, it's so crazy looking. Why does he wear that? And I like he would, because he has like an artist mind, so he would think about like little details like that and be like, why? Like, what's the point? And I thought, well, you're just being silly. Why are you questioning it? And he was actually like reading his Bible, where I wasn't really reading the Bible that much. I was just reading about the saints.
Right.
And he started like actually reading the Bible, and he started to really get to know the Jesus of the Bible, like feel his presence when he would read it. And then when he'd go to the church, he was like, I don't feel that at all when I come here.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
is like, I don't see why it's such like this fancy ordeal with the big hats and like just all this ornate stuff and all these rules, and it just seems so cold and kind of scary. And then he just started to wonder about stuff, and so he started to look up church history, and he read like from a Catholic's perspective about church history, and like this Catholic guy is admitting like, yeah, the Catholic popes would like invent torture devices to torture the heretics with, and they would like just do these horrible things that were obviously not of God.
Right. Yeah.
And like he's like, wait, why is this guy admitting that like kind of openly? But he just got really confused, and he just dove deeper into research about like what's the deal with all this. And he started to get to the point where he's like, I can't go to the mass anymore. He had to stop. He's like, I can't do it. I'm not going to be Catholic anymore. And he was like totally done. And I was all in and was like, well, you're just wrong. You're deceived. And I just thought he was like so off. And meanwhile, I was to the point where I was kissing statues, kissing holy cards, and like I spent day in and day out just like praying these like prayers written on holy cards, trying to get mystic things to happen. Because sometimes like there's certain things you can say like in Catholicism, and like, oh, if you do this, say this prayer for 19 days straight, like somebody will get saved in your family or something like that.
Huh, that's interesting. Now, did you
Yeah.
ever have any mystical experiences that came from any of that?
Um, well, not really. Um, like I would feel a presence. So, and it was nothing like the presence I felt from Jesus, but I started to pray more to what they call the Queen of Heaven,
Yeah.
um, the Mother of God, quote unquote. I started to pray to her a lot more because I was into Fatima, and I would definitely feel like her presence when I pray to her,
Ah,
and I would
interesting.
stare into images of her and like because what they do is, and I'm getting this from like actual accepted by the Catholic Church like teaching,
Yeah.
not some off base thing. Like lots of the holy saints that are regarded highly in the Catholic Church, they would have writings declaring that she's actually the one that gives you all the grace. Like she's the dispenser of all grace, they would say, and that God is just like, okay, fine, do what you gotta do because you're the loving mother. Like I'm just the angry father, but the loving mother will have compassion. And they kind of teach you like when you're in sin, God is really mad at you and he won't hear you. Like he doesn't want to hear from you. So pray to her because she's the loving mother with compassion. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I really had that in my head. So I started to go back to like God's kind of angry, but I had her to pray to now. And like I still love Jesus and I remember like genuinely reading about the crucifixion and really like and I did read the Bible some like here and there and I remember definitely like when I'd hear about Jesus feeling very strongly about it. But I at the same time I was wrapped up in this whole other thing with the spirit woman and I just became kind of like a slave to it in a way. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Like
that's pretty intense, especially after having the vision of Jesus.
yeah, and he was so freeing. Like it was the most free feeling ever. And then I went back to bondage to be like a slave to the doctrines of this because I thought that was the only way you could follow Jesus.
Right, right.
And they say like, well, if you really love Jesus, you'll pray to his mother because he loves his mother. So why would you not pray to honor his mother by praying her rosary and stuff like that?
Right.
They'll tell you stuff like that. So you're like, okay, I guess, whatever. And so
Fidgeting.
yeah, so like, oh, sorry. And so yeah, and there's something called a scapular, a brown scapular. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I'm actually don't know what that is. What is that?
Okay, so this is like really a horrible thing. I mean, it's a lot of Catholics wear this thing where all it is two little squares of brown felt, and then it has like a string around each, and the little square of felt on each side of the string, and you wear it like a necklace, but you wear it underneath your clothes because it's definitely not stylish. You just hide it under there, and it says on it that it's a anyone. Usually, it'll have this like inscribed on it. It'll say anyone who dies wearing this will not suffer the eternal fires of hell. So if you die wearing this thing, and then it says that's a promise from Our Lady, like the Holy Mother.
Oh, yeah, I just Googled it. Looking at it,
Yep.
definitely found one of these once in some bushes when I was a kid and like had it for a while. I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, that's a real deal thing. A lot of Catholics wear them, and my dad to this day wears it, and I'm like really wanna like, and I wore it, and I got obsessed with it because I was like, well, I'm never taking this off because the second I take it off, the devil's gonna want to kill me because he's gonna know I'm not wearing it, and then I'll suffer. I'll go to hell because I might be in a sin. I,
Wow.
I
That's
might be.
so heavy that you had such an experience with Jesus and then you're like bound by these shackles of the
Oh my
scapular.
goodness. it was painful. It was so horrible, and I didn't realize. Like, I thought, cool. Like, I was really bonding with my dad at this time because I could call him and openly talk to him about everything in my life that I was like thinking about and learning.
Oh yeah, well
And he
I
was,
did that didn't even occur to me. I mean, you had this chance and you had this experience with Jesus, but then you kind of get into the Catholic thing, but I imagine at some level there was like a manner of healing with your father in that way. At least your
oh,
relationship
he,
together.
yeah, like he was beyond like relieved. Like, cause none of my sisters have like gotten into their faith like this. So like it was a big deal for him to see like after praying for so many years, now I'm like a diehard Catholic.
Yeah.
Like we would try to go I would try to go out on the street and evangelize other people who were believed in Jesus, and I'd be like, no, 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 you don't get it. You have to pray to the mother. And I would just go on about mother of God. Like, you have to pray to her. It got really crazy, and they'd be like, no, I just pray to Jesus. And I remember thinking, oh, that poor person, they don't get it. And then, it was crazy.
Yeah, seriously. So while this is happening, your boyfriend is off. What is he finding Jesus in his own way outside of Catholicism at this point?
So like we had no influence because honestly, a Catholic church in Portland, Oregon, where not a lot of people go to church, we didn't see like any people our age whatsoever. There's just like a few scattered old people in a big church. So like we didn't connect with any people. And he like at this point when he's not going to church anymore, um, like his only connection was he found this old radio in the trash, and he like it ended up working, and he started to listen to the radio, and he found like this Christian station on the radio, and it was just like regular Bible believing Christians on the radio, and he started to listen to it, and he was like amazed how it what they were talking about sounded like the Jesus he was reading about in the Bible. And he was like, whoa, like it was coming together for him, and he was like, wow. And they're just like the way they preach, it doesn't have to be like some fancy mass. They're making it applicable to your life, so you can apply it. And they were being down to earth, and like that was just totally unheard of, because like we were getting all our teaching from a priest who lives he doesn't live like a normal person. He doesn't have a husband or a wife and kids. He's like a celibate man that lives in the church, and that's what he does.
Right, right.
I'm not saying it's wrong to be a single man, but you know what I'm saying? Like, um, they can't really give you like the kind of teaching that would apply to your life in a down to earth kind of way. And
Sure.
anyway, so he started to hear some guys on the radio, and that was like just really clicking for him. And I remember he was like really wanting to go to a church really badly, but I knew it was a mortal sin for me to go to church, any kind of church that's not Catholic.
It's a mortal sin to go to
Yeah.
any kind of church that's not Catholic?
Yeah. And that's the thing.
That's
a lot
hardcore.
The thing is, like, most like modern Catholics, they don't actually read their doctrine. Like, I was reading the doctrine, and like there's things that are mortal sins that, like, they would say if you die in this sin without going to a confession to a priest, then you'll go to hell.
Right.
So one of them would be purposefully skipping a Sunday, or like skipping mass. One of them would be like skipping a holy day of obligation, or like if you purposely go to a church service that isn't Catholic. That's one of them. And so I knew I could not go, and he really wanted to go to church, but he didn't know anyone, and he was kind of like nervous because he never experienced it. And he actually like found this church in Portland based off some like gospel music he found. Like, he found this musician he liked, and found out he lives in Portland, and he goes to a church in Portland, and he really wanted to go to this church. And I was like, I knew he was really, really needed something. So I was like, maybe God will understand. I'm not doing it for me. I'm just going for moral support for him.
Right.
So I went with him to the church and was like, whatever, this is so like, I thought I was so above this, like, you know,
This
but
little down home little hobunk
yeah,
Protestant church. Yeah.
yeah. But when we went there, I remember feeling really amazed, like, um, there were so many people our age, and not that that's a reason to go to church, but that was just the first time I saw like Christians that were anywhere near my age, and like a groups of people. I was just like, whoa, there's actually people going to church in this city. I had no idea. Like, we were both amazed. We had no idea. And I remember like the sermon I thought was really good, and I was really surprised by that, and I could really feel something there. And I remember like when I would read in the Bible about like the living body of Christ, um, I would read those words, but like I didn't feel it until I went to the church. I was like, whoa, it's people actually living in the time that they're in, and they're Christians, and they're living their life, and they're worshiping God, and they don't have to pretend they live in 1707 as some like saint from a holy card, because that's the mentality I had. Like, I thought I had to pretend I lived in some old time, just to even like feel holy or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
these are just like regular people that were coming there to worship God, and I thought that was so crazy. And I remember like thinking the thought, like, whoa, living body of Christ. That's what this looks like. And it was just the craziest thing to me. It really blew my mind. But anyway,
Well,
I'll kind
I
of
mean
like,
that's awesome. And so you kind of you kind of like had another kind of hardcore rebellion coming out of Catholicism again, in that, it seemed
hardcore.
like
Yes.
you were
Yeah.
committing a mortal sin, and then it's almost like you get this other big, huge, refreshing breath of air.
Yeah, but so I have to say this. So I was still wearing my scapular, and I ended up going to confession, confessing that I even went to the church, and I was still very much a Catholic. But, and I was battling like that. But just to fast forward a little, I won't go into every detail. But I was still I was still praying the rosary every day, because you're really supposed to. Like, if you know about the message of Our Lady of Fatima, she tells you have to be praying the rosary every single day,
Right,
and you're praying 50. If you're doing it the lazy short way, you're praying 53 prayers, Hail Marys to her,
right, right.
and it's like, I don't know, it's like 6 Our Fathers versus 53 Hail Marys. But anyway, that's the short way, and really you're supposed to do it like 153. So anyway,
It's a
you're
lot of
supposed to do that
work. Sounds like a
every
lot of work to
single
me.
day, the same prayer every single day, again and again, and it's very dull. But anyway, where was I going? Oh yeah. So my boyfriend, like, he was challenging me to like try to come out of the Catholic stuff, but I could not. I still could not. And it was just so ingrained in me. And I I wholeheartedly think a big reason was that I was like a slave to this goddess, this false spirit woman,
Yeah.
who I believe to now, like after I've done lots of research, I believe that spirit, like if you here, I'll get into the story. But I believe she is like a lot of the old goddesses that you hear about throughout,
Yep. Yeah, I've seen that analysis of
like
Fatima.
Diana, Venus, all those ladies. I think there's like I think they're kind of the same spirit, just replayed through different stories.
Sure.
But anyway, and they always look alike in statues. But anyway, so I was still wearing her scapular and praying to her, and I thought, okay, I took like the biggest leap of faith I ever took with this. I was like, okay, what if God really doesn't want me praying to all these saints? I challenged myself. I was like, what if he doesn't really want me praying to Mary? If that's the case, I don't want to be doing it, but right now I do think I'm supposed to. But I was like trying to look outside of my own mindset and say, like, well, what if I'm just programmed to think that? So if that's the case, I have to just stick to the only thing that I feel like I can lean on, which is God, Jesus. So what if just for like 2 days I just don't pray to any other saints and I don't pray to Mary and I just pray to God and ask, and obviously Jesus, I never doubted Jesus. Um, like the Holy Spirit. I only believed in the, I said, okay, I'm just gonna pray to the Trinity, I'm just gonna pray to God and nobody else, just in case.
Sure.
And so I tried that and I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna have to take my scapular off. And I was really scared to take it off.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I took off the scapular and was like, she'll understand, like she can't get mad at me, she'll understand. I'm just trying to find the truth here. And if she's real, she'll understand, you know? So I just asked God, like, after I took off the scapular and asked God and stopped praying to her, the clarity came like almost immediately.
Really? What do you mean by the clarity?
Like I asked God, if, is this right to be praying to her or should I just be praying to you? Because I was aware of like, don't pray to dead spirits and like other spirits in
Right.
the Bible. But, you know, you kind of glaze over that when you're a Catholic because, you know, like they do pray to tons of spirits. And so I asked God, you know, is this wrong? Is this a sin? And he led me, and then he led me to the Bible, and he led me to the book of Jeremiah, and I found the only place I ever mentioned the Queen of Heaven, which she's officially considered the Queen of Heaven. Like that's one of her titles
Right.
in the church. The only place in the whole Bible you ever hear about like anything related to one of her titles. It talks about in capital letters the Queen of Heaven, and it's God using Jeremiah to warn the Israelites, stop praying to her, stop offering sacrifices to her because it's making God mad. And if they don't stop praying to her, he's gonna give them up to her. Just say, fine, you can have her. You know,
Right. Yeah.
and they don't want to stop. They're stuck on it. They're blinded by the Spirit. And I realized, dang, that's what was happening to me. I was blinded by this Spirit because, you know, he didn't make it clear to me while I was praying to her because I wasn't giving it up. But like the second, like I decided to try giving her up and I stopped wearing all that stuff, then he made it so clear, like, no, just pray to me.
Dang, that's heavy.
And that's when I started deprogramming from being a Catholic. And that took, like, to fully unlearn Catholic doctrine took me about a year because I would, like, go to church and I'd freak out all of a sudden and be like, you know, I would have, like thunderbolt, like, guilt thoughts.
Right.
But that was, like, when it started that I really was like, okay, I gotta stop.
So how long were you like super deep into the Catholicism?
Um, it was probably like 6 or 7 months,
Okay, so a decent amount of time.
maybe like 8 months. I don't know. It seemed like a greater part of a year, but not a whole year.
Sure, yeah.
But it was also like built into me from childhood, and so I felt like I had known a lot of it from childhood, but I just never like fully embraced it. And now I was fully embracing it like constantly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
and then the purgatory thing, I got obsessed with. There's a prayer you can pray as a Catholic if you believe in purgatory. There's a prayer that they say if you pray this, every time you pray it, like a certain number of souls will be released from purgatory. So it's basically up to the living to release the souls from purgatory.
Yeah, I never fully understood that.
Yeah, so it's like, wait, so it's not up to God, it's up to us. So if that's the case, why aren't we constantly praying this? Because if we're not praying it, then we're just letting these souls suffer. And because I was so freaked out by purgatory, anytime I was alone, just like walking around, I was just constantly saying that prayer over and over and over and over, like 50, 60, 100 times.
Yeah, yeah.
and I was just constantly saying the same thing. And I even had like one time when I started to fall asleep, I heard it sounded like hundreds of voices screaming my name. It sounded like they were suck.
Oh,
Yeah, I heard like hundreds of people like in a silent room. When I started to fall asleep, they were screaming my name to like help them to come out of purgatory.
wow. That's
And so after that, I was like, dang, I gotta be praying this every day. But anyway, that was just like a little side note.
yeah.
So I can see the bondage, obviously.
Yeah, so you finally, after a year of trying to break from the the shackles that had you into this like super ritualistic, super just intense form of Christianity. Well, some would argue that term even. Um,
Well, okay, so to be fair, I definitely don't think it's like the real way, but you do hear the gospel. So like I would never say like, oh, this person's a Catholic, so they're not going to have like, because I think in like modern Catholicism, it kind of looks a lot like just a regular Christian in a lot of ways.
right.
But I really don't know. I would say to be on the safe side, try to get people away from it because it's going to lean towards idolatry.
Yeah, well, I mean it's certainly built right in there.
Yeah, it will. It's an embraced like idea to be praying to these.
Yeah. Now, how long ago was all of this? Like
Oh,
compared to where we are now?
okay. So like that dream I had, and then like becoming Catholic. Like I would say the vision when I was like, okay, I'm following Jesus. That happened. I like tracked down the date. December. It was December 13th of 2012. So what is that? Like 5 years ago, almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like 5 years.
Now,
So
what
oh
happened? What
oh
happened in 2012?
oh, that's when I had like that vision of Jesus that
Oh,
I was like,
yes, of course.
and then I went on to be a Catholic for maybe like like a little more than half of the year I was a Catholic, and then for like another year I was like a Protestant Christian going to a non-denominational church and like still unsure, like deprogramming from Catholicism. And
Right.
then after like a whole year, I was solid, like, okay, I'm not Catholic.
I
I'm
can
not,
officially say.
yeah. And then at that point, like, obviously at some point, after all the craziness, me and um, me and my boyfriend, we were still together and everything. We came through a lot together because we were into all the dark stuff, and then we
Went through
became like
all the Catholic
super
stuff.
Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the crazy thing is, I could not have come out of the Catholic stuff if he wasn't there, because I'm not saying like God. I'm saying God used him in my life because he was like questioning it. I was not. I probably would have just like, I don't know. I mean, I think either way, Jesus is gonna lead you to the truth, but he was using him in my life to help me out of it because he challenged me on it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much ran the full spectrum together. That's you
We
got
did, yeah, and we lost like no one wanted to hang out with us at that point. Like
yeah.
all of my
Yeah, you certainly had a lot going on.
friends. Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, that's awesome. And what a great story and what an interesting, fascinating one too. I got to say, throughout all the programs that I've ever done, there's been certainly talk of Catholicism and the Vatican and the Pope and all the sort of conspiratorial stuff that goes along with that, and done a certain amount of research and certainly have the cultural touchstones that all go with Catholicism. But I don't think I've, at least personally, talked to anybody who has had the experience quite like you. So that's very valuable. Thank you very much for sharing all of that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for giving me the platform to talk about it.
Yeah.
I do feel it's a huge deal because one thing is like when we went to our church that we were going to for a while in Portland, we were like so we weren't like, oh, I hate a Catholic person, but we
Right.
were like very angry towards the doctrines that, because we just came out of like a slavery of that
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
saw it for what it really is, and we were not fans of it, and so we came away from it like it is not right, like stay away from that stuff. But a lot of the people I realized were not aware of that, and they didn't realize like the little details of it, like the doctrines.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
I mean,
certainly there are authors and researchers out there who do a pretty good job of digging into a lot of the more subtle nuances that is, within the Catholic Church, especially in the sort of older traditions before Vatican 2.0, really. Um,
yeah, we found some great like resources and books and stuff like that. And like
yeah,
we got to know like because I taught myself like all the doctrines and the nitty gritty things, I had to unlearn it all. So I want to know why is this not the truth? Like on the Eucharist, the Pope, all the like the big topics,
yeah,
like praying to saints. Like I learned a lot of it and how it's actually just rooted in paganism and
right.
you know.
Well, so here's what I'm interested in. We've been going for about 2.5 hours, and this is great. Like I said, this has been a really, really eye-opening conversation, and obviously, I was actually more enthralled just listening than anything else. Um, but we do. I'm still very impacted by the vision that you had of Jesus and the feeling of freedom that you felt there, and then you did a great job of kind of laying side by side the feeling of sort of the bondage that came with the Queen of Heaven, and then taking off the scapula, things like that. Um, so this was, I guess you've spent some years now in the place that you're at.
Uh-huh.
Emotionally, how would you track that throughout your life?
Crazy. Um, it at the point when I mean, like it was crazy to like be where I was in a worldly way, like in my sins and everything, and then to just change overnight like that
Yeah,
was was really crazy. Um, because I was just like a new person all of a sudden, and I was doing it with somebody else who just became a new person all of a sudden. So like that was so insane. Like, but I think it was even crazier coming out of. Well, I don't want to say crazier. I don't know. It had its own thing. To come out of the Catholic stuff was there was this vivid image in my head when I even had the idea of questioning the Catholic faith, like that night that I decided to like question it and just pray to God about it. I had this vision that like imagine your whole world and everything you've come to know, and then have the floor and like the ground and the walls and everything like pulled out from under you, and you're
right.
just like floating in a black abyss. That's what I felt like. Like I saw that in my head of how that's how I felt spiritually. Like I'm just falling, waiting for God to catch me because I don't know anything around me. What's going on?
Wow.
That's what it felt like. And but it was an awesome feeling though, knowing that I do have I do definitely 100% have that foundation that I can rest on, even when everything else I have, like every other aspect of life, I have to question. It felt so good knowing like his hand will catch me if I just like let everything fall away.
Amen, sister.
It was a really awesome feeling, like to actually feel his hand catch you after you're like basically like stripped away of everything that you know. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he's very real, and it's like he'll do that anytime, like in little ways. Even when you like get caught up in whatever selfish thoughts, or like you're you're falling into some sin in your life, even now after you've been a Christian for a while. If you
Right.
just like take the time to be like, okay, I don't have to cling to these things. I can just give it up. and then kind of just like strip it away and let him catch you. It's a really good feeling, and I still fall into that like any other person where I'll get caught up in my own mindset and get attached to certain ideas, and I'll let myself get bitter, like have bad thoughts collecting, and then you feel the weight of that and the bondage, and you're like, dang, I gotta give that up. And then but he's always there to give you that freeing feeling, and that's just such a good feeling.
Mm.
So that's why, like, I know on the show you usually ask people about, oh, when you learned about all the Illuminati and all that stuff, like, how did you feel emotionally? And like, yeah, there's days when that sounds kind of scary, but I think it's kind of like exciting in a way, because it's like it doesn't matter what's going on really. It's like because you have God no matter what as your foundation, so it's not that scary.
Yeah, amen, sister.
I
It's
mean, what I think about when I hear about all like the scary stuff in the world, I think about like my family that don't follow him and don't know him. That scares me more than how I feel about it.
right, right.
Because I'm like, dang.
Have you been able to share any of your post-Catholic experiences with your father or anybody else in your family?
I mean, like my sisters are really scarred of hearing, like they kind of hear when I try to preach them a little bit, they hear I sound like my dad to them too.
Right, yeah.
So they're like, so I have to be like, I can't go so hard on them, or else they'll run away and get really.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
Like,
reasonable.
yeah,
That's
so I try to be
can't
like,
blame them for that.
yeah, totally. And like, no one wants it like shoved in their face, like you need, whatever.
Right.
But like, this is what I'm doing with my life, so you have to do it now, or
Yeah.
else you're horrible. So yeah, I mean, I've learned like I gotta kind of I just pray for them, and I try. I've definitely said some stuff to them, but more subtly, more lighter. But then like with my dad, sometimes we just go at it. But I don't see him that much. He's like 4 hours away right now. Um, but I see him more than when I was in Oregon. Of course, I'm in Chicago now. Um, but like when I do see him, we're like going at it about something, and then he'll be like, today was the day of the Fatima, um, you know, anniversary. How does that make you feel? Why aren't you going back to the Catholic faith? Like, oh, I have to add this. Me and my husband, so we decided like we definitely want to get married, uh, like a couple of years ago, and I mean we'd already been through everything together. We both believe in Jesus now. At this point, we have like all this stuff it just felt like, yeah, of course we're gonna get married. We've been on this whole road together. So I called my parents to tell them that we were gonna get married, and my dad said I don't give my blessing because he thought Nick, my husband, was like brainwashing me and forcing me to not be Catholic.
Oh, yeah,
So
interesting.
he kind of saw him as the enemy of like my Catholicism. So he was like, I don't, you know, you don't have my blessing. But like it was crazy because he like gave his blessing to guys who were atheists with my sisters. So it was like, what?
Right, right.
This guy like genuinely believes in God. But anyway, he ended up I don't know if I should have said that. But anyway, he ended up apologizing like to my husband, saying like he loves my husband. Like they actually have a lot in common, like because my dad likes talking about conspiracies.
Yeah.
So we can like talk for hours and hours with him. We can tell him about like the Nephilim. We can talk about like any of that kind of stuff. And he'll go into those like crazy topics that most people.
That's awesome. And that is one thing that I've noticed about some hardcore Catholics that I've been able to meet and read about and read their literature is that, the real hardcore guys, they're always down to talk a good conspiracy.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
he
kind of
definitely.
funny in that way.
He always was like that. So like I remember always hearing about like conspiracy stuff when I was young. But
Yeah, yeah. Well,
so I mean,
that's
I attribute a lot of things I know and I'm like willing to talk about and get into to him in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's interesting, and we're coming up close to 3 hours here, and if I take it too much longer than that, I'll have a revolt on my hands. Um,
yeah, yeah, best
but
to wrap it up.
but like I said, we're breaking a little bit from form, and the episode that comes out before this will also break a little bit from form, so that'll be interesting. Um, we didn't even really get into a lot of conspiracy stuff, but I feel there's so much of that already surrounding the Catholic Church that I kind of feel like we did talk a lot about that already. Um,
Yeah.
so I will say, if there's anything, any special experiences or anything special about your experiences in life surrounding conspiracies, or just the way the world is outside of the Catholicism
Yeah.
story, totally down to hear that. But then we got to talk about
Wrapping it up.
some
Oh.
cute friends and some
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I do want to add this really quick. So like back when I was thinking like all Catholic minded, and I thought that I didn't think that like a non-denominational or like a Protestant would ever think about conspiracies. Like, I didn't think that Protestants thought about this stuff at all.
yeah.
And so, because I thought that they were just kind of like simpler minded people, like as horrible as that sounds. Um, but I remember being really amazed, like when I was kind of having this change in my life. Um, Nick found this video. I don't remember what it was called, but it was about like my first experience with like just regular Christians talking about that stuff was just some YouTube video he found about like the alien deception.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is really smart. Like they really thought about all of this in the end times. And like I didn't really know much about eschatology like back then. Um, but I just remember being really amazed that they could like understand all that. So I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's cool. They could go deep like that. But I didn't think it went deep, but I also wasn't reading my Bible. So like that's the stupid thing. Like just read the book of Revelation. I like honestly I sometimes I'm really amazed that anyone, not to make fun, but anyone that says they're a Christian, like really believes in Christianity to be a Christian, um, and believes in the Bible, that they would say like there's no conspiracies out there.
I know.
Like,
The Bible's full of conspiracies.
like read the Bible. Look at Jesus's death. That was a whole conspiracy. Like that was a whole thing. And then read the book of Revelation. And like one of the things after being a Christian in a non-denominational church for a while, we started to like realize, dang, why doesn't anyone talk about the book of Revelation? Like this is awesome stuff.
Yeah,
I
it
know
gets
people
hardcore.
debated over like is it pre-wrath or all this, but like either way, I mean this stuff is pretty vital for any Christian to be knowing about.
Yeah, it's true. It's totally true. And a big part of it, there's a lot of conjecture, a lot of theories about this, but whether it's deception within the church or just the fact that it's might be a little bit too much to handle at times. Everybody's just trying to live their lives, man. Can't think about
Yeah,
dragons and beasts.
but to me like it gets me more excited. Like it's like watching a movie and then being like, oh, I'm not gonna watch the last 25 minutes. Just gonna turn it off. Like, I hope
Right.
this ends.
Right,
Just
right.
like, come on, there's an ending, and it's really awesome.
Well, that you make an excellent point there.
Yeah, and then like also like with the conspiracy stuff, one thing is, I mean, I would say just in the past 2 years since I've lived in Chicago, we've been like really isolated. We haven't had like a good like church community or anybody like that. So we've kind of like really gotten into the podcast and like more and more deeper into conspiracies and stuff like that, and like all it just research in the past 2 years since we've been in Chicago, and uh, anyway, it's just been kind of in our face because this is like a beast system kind of city. It's
Oh,
very,
I'm sure. Yeah.
very.
Especially Chicago.
There's a very strong, like dark spiritual. It's a thick, dark spiritual. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like some kind of. What do you call those spirits? Anyway, like that kind of take over the city, and like even when we drive away, like out of the city limits, I feel kind of a weight come off.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Like a regional sort of
Territory.
rulership, territorial. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm not gonna get into it too much. Like, oh, what are their names? I gotta know all about them. But like, I can just feel that there's a delusion here, like in a lot of major cities, because they're kind of just set up to be like that, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But
well, I gotta say, as far as the podcasts and things like that, it's really it's really one of the only places for weirdos like us.
yeah, actually, Canary Cry was my first conspiracy Christian
Ooh.
conspiracy thing.
Ah,
Like,
yeah.
yes, it was my first podcast in general. I never listened to a podcast, and
you
I don't
know,
know how my husband found Canary Cry like back before we lived in Chicago, like maybe 4 years ago or something like that. And then I was like, "Whoa, this is cool!" And they're funny. That's crazy. Like that was crazy that you could have a sense of humor and be like lighthearted and still talk about this really intense, scary stuff. That
yeah.
was refreshing because
Yeah.
it's
It's
yeah, it's
the only
heavy
way,
stuff.
it's the only way to survive, sister.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, and I gotta say, I said it before. I'm gonna say it again. What a wonderful story. I mean, obviously, you had to live through it a little bit. Maybe wonderful wasn't the word you would use at the time, but
Yeah, but like looking back, you're like, dang, testimonies are so awesome because you see like what God does. It's really cool.
yeah, absolutely. It's and especially, what I like about sort of this long format media that is podcasts is that, I mean, that's a story that takes a while to tell,
Yeah,
and but that's how our lives are. Our lives have such ups and downs and huge journeys through them, and it's really, you can't really understand the whole picture without getting to hear the whole story. So
the nitty gritty. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I
So
love hearing testimonies.
yeah, well, I'm kind of glad that I never meant for this necessarily to be a testimony podcast per se, but hey, what can I say? I like what I like.
It's a conversation about people's spiritual journey.
Yeah, there you go. You get it. All right. Well, here we go. We got 5 minutes left until
Okay.
3 hours. So
Okay.
tell me about your life with furry friends.
That's been a really sad part of my life.
Oh no.
And same with my husband. Like we both love animals so much, and we like really, really love them. And anyway, we have not had a pet because we've been like desperate, like longingly staring at people's dogs. And, like, well, sometimes we'll walk by and be like, if we see the owner like not giving their dog attention for 1 second, or like looking at their phone while they're in the presence of their dog, we'll be like, oh, I would have been giving that dog all the attention. Be like, I would have been, you know, let me have that dog. Or like if you make eye contact with someone's dog, we'll be
Just
like,
shaming the owners.
yeah, we'll be like, that dog would love me. I'll take it. Like
Oh
we're
no.
crazy. We're like crazy. We really want a dog, but I don't know. It's really hard because we live in a little cramped apartment right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
well, especially
I
with
want
dogs,
a
you
dog.
can't really do the apartment thing. I mean, people do it, people make it work, but I couldn't
We
imagine it.
could, we could because we love to take really, really, really long walks. We do
Uh-huh.
like that's our thing. Like we love to just walk and talk for a long time,
Sure.
and like that would be a great thing to have a dog and just walk with the dog.
Yeah.
And But I don't know. It still seems kind of cruel because like we get really busy. Like when I get back into school, I'm very, very busy, and
Yeah.
we don't have any kind of yard or I don't know.
Hey, well, that's very responsible of you, young lady. I'll tell you that. You know,
Well,
it's
we love
y
dogs, so we don't want to make a dog unhappy. Even though
yes, I got you.
we love it a lot, we
I
have a
mean,
lot.
and that's part of the reason I've had to stick with cats because I too live in a smaller apartment, and oh man, I'm
Yeah,
there.
kitties are great. I mean, I'm here with my sister's kitty,
Yeah,
Barry. He's a cutie.
yeah,
I mean, he's not as like soulful of a cat as like what I would want. He's kind of just like, where's the food?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
Well,
think
that's what you gotta. Well, what you're talking about is a dog.
yeah. Well, so I'll tell this really fast.
Okay.
When I was a kid, like um I was born into the family when there was already a cat that had been around for like 4 years. So I
Hmm.
grew up with a cat who's older than me, and like I lived in a house of 7 people, and it was the most amazing thing. The cat, his name was Figaro. He always slept in the bed with me no matter what, and
Oh,
like
that's cute.
even if I was sleeping, like my whole life, like the moment I was born, he just, I mean, maybe not the moment I was born, but since I was a little child till the end of his life, every single night he was with me just naturally. And it was the coolest thing. We had such a deep friendship and connection, and like I thought he was my very best friend. And it was like I cried years and years later after he died. It was such an emotional like bond that I had with this cat.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so after he died, I kind of was like vowed I would never own a cat again because
Because you could
there
never
can never be a better.
replace him.
Yeah, I could never replace him. And we even tried to get these little kittens after he died. It just felt wrong. And we ended up only having them for about a week, and then we ended up realizing we couldn't have them. We got rid of them. Well, we gave them to a family, and I just want to stick with the fact that I said I would never own a cat again. And then I happened to marry it, and like I would have already been tempted to get a cat, but I married a guy who's allergic to cats, so
Oh yeah,
he's
that'll
like,
do it.
and he loves dogs. He's like total dog person.
Right.
So I'm gonna stick with that vow because I had a really deep connection with a cat.
Hey, I gotta say I respect both of your choices. From dogs to cats, I respect both of those choices. If there's gonna be any reason not to have a dog or cat at this point in your life, I think you got the right reasons. So that's good. You got a good head on your shoulders. But
Oh, I
what?
will tell you really fast. 1 minute. We did like a couple months ago. We rescued a baby squirrel. My husband found it, and like we knew it was abandoned by its mother for sure. So we rescued it, and we had this little baby squirrel for like a weekend. But it was during my finals weekend at school, and I was so stressed out. But like I basically became its mother overnight, and
There
was
you
up
go.
all the hours of the night because you have to feed it like every 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
And I learned what baby squirrels need to eat and drink and all that. But it was such like I felt like a mother. I really did. And I loved it. It was so cute, but it was just also really sad, and I was really stressed out, and it was taking my over my life. And we found some wildlife people to come pick it up.
Yeah.
So they took squirrels. So we gave it to them, and I cried for like 3 days because I missed
Oh,
this.
little squirrely.
Because like we had a pet. That was our first pet. So we were just crying our eyes out. We miss it so much.
Oh, well, that's adorable. And thank you for rescuing him. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll find him one day
I don't
knocking
know.
outside your door.
Yeah, that would be nice. I feel like he might have died because they said they would tell us how he was doing. They never did. But at least, he'll be in heaven one day, and he'll be like, hey, thanks for helping me out.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
We named him Moses.
Oh, that's a good squirrel name.
Yeah, he was real sweet.
Nice. All right, well, good. There you go. See, you got some little furry friends keeping you company in life here.
Yeah, here and there.
Well, there will be some more squirrels. You'll be the squirrel rescue lady.
I would
Um,
do it again.
All right. Well, you know what I'm going to ask about next. What do you what, in a in a narrow sense, how that juicing be going? In a broader sense, are you taking care of yourself, young lady?
Uh, I did get a juicer, but I kind of like stopped using it because it's like I don't know.
It's a pain in the butt. I know.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
huge pain in the butt.
I sort of like I love carrot juice.
Yeah.
It's really good. That's why I got it because I was like, yum, carrot juice. But um, but then I realized I like smoothies and like you can get more stuff in it because I felt like I was wasting a lot with the juice.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's a guilt I have to that is my own cross to bear as well. I it's smoothies you waste a lot less.
Yeah, I mean you get all the fiber and everything. You get a lot more nutrients that way. But I guess like juice is good if you're trying to like
If you're thirsty.
if you're thirsty, you like the taste.
Yeah,
Or
it's
I
good
guess
stuff.
people do like the juice detoxes. I never did that, but I guess it's good because you don't like give your stomach any work, and it's just straight.
Right.
You know, whatever. It's easier for your body, but I don't know.
Yeah, you get it. And you guys are going seems like you're going on all these long walks all the time.
Yeah,
You
we walk.
you guys got to be in fairly healthy condition.
I mean, we love sweets, and we I kind of like had to cut back because I was addicted to sugar for a really long time.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So I kind of like cut back just by eating more fruit as my sugar
That's
thing.
very responsible of you.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say I don't eat donuts sometimes.
Well, I don't think any of us can really say that.
I know who's gonna say no to a donut?
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And you and your husband are kind of on the same page when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah,
And you're living happily ever after.
yeah,
What a strange little fairy tale you two lived.
yeah. I mean, it's not like oh, just so perfect, but I mean, we will all one day be.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's
But
great.
we struggle, but
Hey,
we're we're not loving Chicago life, but it's
yeah,
okay.
you gotta get out of there. That's your first mistake.
Yeah, I just gotta like graduate, and then like we just have lots of plans, like art project plans, and
No offense to all you other Chicago people. Apparently, Texas is where we all need to go.
oh yeah, my sister lives in Houston.
Really? Everybody lives in Texas.
Well, it's a big state.
Yeah, it's a big boy. Well, thank you so much. What before we get going, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the art collective you're doing and how to check it out and how to get some sweet merch, and then also I'll give you my address so you can send me a sweet care package.
Oh yes, we love doing that.
I've been seeing your guys' stuff around Facebook. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean like that was like the first round, and we really want to get more shirts because we just have one shirt right now,
Yeah.
and the one that says "Escape Babylon." That was, and we want to get more, and we want to just like be doing more.
Do it.
And
Do you guys have a Kickstarter, a Patreon, or anything?
Nick has been my husband. He's really talking about wanting to do a Kickstarter because he's got a lot of big plans. Like he wants to really get it going.
Okay. Well, get that going. Get it
Yeah,
together. Let me know, and I can plug it.
yeah, that would be awesome. And then, well, if you want to check out our Etsy, just look up Signal the Storm on Etsy. Like I can't remember the actual link, but if you just type in Signal the Storm on the Etsy website
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and search that, you'll probably see like the Escape Babylon T-shirt or something like that. And there's like, we just have a T-shirt and like a bunch of buttons. And then my husband made a really cool zine about television because he's really like, the television is big
Right.
me or whatever. Not that we'd never watch TV, but like not very much.
Yeah. It's probably better that way. All right. The Signal the Storm link. Yep, it's a long link. Go to Etsy, search Signal the Storm.
Yeah,
It's the easiest way to do it.
or maybe we'll post more stuff on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, get on it. Post some of the stuff on the feed when I post this episode.
Oh yeah, cool. And yeah, we will be doing a Kickstarter soon, but we just want to be more clear about like what all the money would be going to specifically for the projects. Just make it. We know pretty well like what we're gonna do, but we're just thinking about it right now.
That is key. That is key.
Mm-hmm.
I see you're out of large shirts. That's gonna be a problem for me.
Oh, actually not. I just need to I need to get with it.
Oh, get on it, girl.
But we will be adding a bunch of new shirts. We have designs that we want to get going. We're a little tight on funds, but
yeah, that's how it is. Okay, sounds good. Do you have a website or anything to go along with that, or a Facebook?
Not really. We have a Facebook group for Signal of the Storm, but it hasn't been super active lately.
Oh my
We just
gosh.
need to like make this happen.
You guys need to get on it. Get on it.
Come out with a new book or anything.
Do it in the next week, and then when this episode comes out, post all the links in the Joyspiracy Theory.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And, yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, Mary, thank you so much. This has been so awesome. Totally unexpected. I try to go into all these interviews without expectations, and I'm constantly having my expectations exceeded, and this is no exception. So I thank you so much.
Oh, great. Yeah, I hope people are able to listen to my voice for that long. I don't know.
Don't be afraid of your voice, lady. It's everybody. Have you recorded and listened to your voice and you didn't like it? Is that why you're so self-conscious?
Yeah.
We all do that. In fact, I've been thinking about putting together a little packet, a little one sheet for anybody about to come on. First of all, to tell them that yes, we use Skype. Everybody out there who's gonna be on, you need Skype. That's number one. Anyways, I'll get that together. All right.
Little bullet points to help people feel like good.
Yes.
I was super nervous. You could probably tell like my voice all like crazy at the beginning. Then I got into telling the story, so it was okay.
You got it. You got those engines revving.
Yeah. I feel like I've been screaming the whole time though, so I don't know.
Oh, you have. You didn't notice that? You were screaming. It was scaring all of us a lot. But we just thought you're really into it. We got really into it.
There's no way your cat's still sleeping on your lap.
Oh my gosh. The whole time it was a problem. But don't worry. I'm a professional.
That's okay.
Professional podcaster. Such a grand title. Oh man. I need to find something to do with my life. All right.
No, do what you love, I say. I'm doing like cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're all doing it. The world needs cartoons and needs podcasts. So there we go.
Yeah.
We're cool. All right, Mary. Thank you so much. And you continue to do the good things that you're doing, okay?
Yay, you too. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the platform to share all my story, my testimony.
You betcha. And we'll certainly hear from you again.
Awesome.
All right. Take it easy.
Yeah, have a good night.
Well, there you go, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. I sure did. I know I say that all the time, but I mean it. And then I know I say this part all the time, but I also mean it very much. If you haven't done yet, head over to facebook.com/thejoyspiracy theory or search the Joyspiracy Theory and like the Facebook page. It's a good place to go. People making posts and cracking jokes. That's a good place to do it. If you want to support the podcast financially, I mean, it really helps cover all the expenses and helps plan for future things. And when we hit a certain goal, it's going to actually help me put out these podcasts on a more consistent basis. I know that's my biggest problem, but if you want to help solve that problem, you can head over to patreon.com/thejoyspiracy theory. And, while you're doing it, you can get some cool perks like getting shout outs for your friends and your pets. And you can even get a message read aloud on the show like Renee did at the top of the hour. The top of the hour, the top of the 3 hours. Anyways, also, if you haven't done so yet, please head over to the iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave a rating or a review. A rating is anywhere from 1 to 5 stars, and a review is words saying why you did that. I'm going to read actually the latest review from iTunes. This one is, the subject line is 1 star. Thanks for that. It's by Wade, the cabinet guy. But, you know, he's a jokester. He actually gave it 5 stars, and he says, "Gotcha, JK, when the content is like 100 high fives and a $100 bill, my rating can't be anything but 5 stars. Basil's laid-back interview style and diversity of guests, their stories and views are what keep me coming back. I love the long episodes for the depth of conversation. Keep it up, Basil, baby." Well, you're welcome, Wade, and thank you so much for that rating and review on iTunes. If you guys want to be cool like Wade, head on over and do that. It really helps out the show, shares it with more people. And so, you know what? And more than that, here's my heartfelt request to you. Everybody out there who's listening to this show, I know you're out there. I see the numbers. If everybody out there would just share the show with one friend, then, you know, we could really grow this sucker and really spread the light and the good news and the love and the joy, more than all. So why don't you take a deep thinking session and think of somebody who might like or benefit from the show, and why don't you just share it with them? Just hit the share button. It's that easy. That's the biggest way we can spread the good word. So, okay, everybody, I think that is about it. Yes. Oh, if you want to get involved with the Joyspiracy Theory prayer group, you can go ahead and email tjtprayer@gmail.com, or you can go to the joyspiracytheory.com and hit the prayer request button there. And you can join up or send a prayer request, and we'll get the whole team praying for you. Also, if you haven't done it yet, in past episodes, I've been playing some messages from people who leave me voice messages, little songs that I keep getting. I keep getting those little songs. I'm into it. I'm going to play one after this. But if you want to get your voice on the show or send me a message, you can go ahead and go to thejoyspiracytheory.com. On the right-hand side, there's going to be a little tab that says Leave a Voice Message. I really want you guys to do this. It is so fun for me to hear these voicemail messages. It could be anything. You could just be telling me what you think about the show, sing me a little song. A lot of people singing songs. Kind of into it. But keep it coming. Or maybe a question. What if we turned it into a question and answer opportunity? Yeah, let's do that. Go to thejoyspiracytheory.com and click on the voicemail tab and ask me a question. Maybe there's a question you've been wanting to ask me, and it's really hard to catch me on Facebook, so this is a great way to do it. Okay, I think that's it. All right, everybody. Also, yeah, you can still leave me a catchphrase for the end of the show because I'm still looking for a good one. But thanks for listening to the show, and when you're walking down the street and your head gets low, listen to the Joyspiracy Theory and watch your face glow. Oh, Monty just jumped on my lap. Hi, Monty. Okay, everybody, take it easy.
You syndrome.